that perished on that occasion. Many, again, struck with shafts and deeply afflicted fled away in fear. Whilst thy warriors were thus engaged in battle from desire of victory, the sun approaching the setting mountain, entered it. In consequence of the darkness, O king, but especially owing to the dust, we could not notice anything favourable or unfavourable. The mighty bowmen, amongst the Kauravas, fearing a night battle, O Bharata, then retired from the field, accompanied by all their combatants. Upon the retirement of the Kauravas, O king, at the close of the day, the Pathas, cheerful at having obtained the victory, also retired to their own encampment, cheering at their enemies by producing diverse kinds of sounds with their musical instruments, and applauding Achyuta and Arjuna. After those heroes had thus withdrawn the army, all the troops and all the kings uttered benediction upon the Pandavas. The withdrawal having been made, those sinless men, the Pandavas, became very glad, and proceeding to their tents rested there for the night. Then Rakshasas and Bishaka, and carnivorous beasts, in large numbers came to that awful field of battle resembling the sporting ground of Rudra himself. 31. Dhritarashtra said, "It seems that Arjuna slew all of you at his will. Indeed, the destroyer himself could not escape him in battle, if Arjuna took up arms against him. Single-handed, Partha ravished Bhadra, and single-handed, he gratified Agni. Single-handed, he subjugated the whole earth, and made all the kings pay tribute. Single-handed, with his celestial bow he slew the Nivatakavishas. Single-handed, he contended in battle with Mahadeva, who stood before him in the guise of a hunter. Single-handed, he protected the Bharatas, and single-handed, he gratified Bhava. Single-handed, were vanquished by him all the kings of the earth endued with fierce prowess. The Kurus cannot be blamed. On the other hand, they deserve praise for having fought with such a warrior. Tell me now what they did. Tell me also, O Suta, what Duryodhana did after that." Sanjaya said, "Struck and wounded and overthrown from their vehicles and divested of armour and deprived of weapons and their beasts slain, with plaintive voices and burning with grief and vanquished by their foes, the vain Kauravas, entering their tents once more took counsel of one another. They then looked like snakes deprived of fangs and poisoned trod upon by others. And to them, Karna, sighing like an angry snake, squeezing his hands, and eyeing thy son, said, Arjuna is always careful, firm, possessed of skill, and endued with intelligence. Again, when the time comes, Vasudeva awakes him to what should be done. Today, by that sudden shower of weapons we were deceived by him. Tomorrow, however, O Lord of earth, I will frustrate all his purposes." Thus addressed by Karna, Duryodhana said, "So be it," and then granted permission to those foremost of kings to retire. Bidden by the king, all those rulers proceeded to their respective tents. Having passed the night happily, they cheerfully went out for battle the next day. They then beheld an invincible array formed by King Yudhishthira the Just, that foremost one of Kuru race, with great care, and according to the sanction of Brihaspati and Usanas. Then that slayer of foes, Duryodhana, called to mind the heroic Karna, that counteractor of foes, that warrior with neck like that of a bull, equal to Purandara himself in battle, the Maruts in might, and Kartavirya in energy. Indeed, the heart of the king turned towards Karna, and the hearts of all the troops also turned to that hero, that Suta's son, that mighty bowman, as one's heart turns to a friend in a situation of great danger. Dhritarashtra said, "What did Duryodhana next do, O Suta, when the hearts of all of you turned towards the Karna's son Karna? Did my troops cast their eyes on Radha's sun-like persons afflicted with cold, turning their gaze towards the sun? Upon the recommencement of the battle after the withdrawal of the troops, how, O Sanjaya, did Vikana's son Kana fight? How also did all the Pandavas fight with the suitor's son? The mighty armed Kana would, single-handed, slay the Pathas with the Srinjayas. The might of Kana's arms in battle equals that of Sakha or Vishnu. His weapons are fierce, and the prowess also of that high-souled one is fierce. Relying upon Kana, King Duryodhana had set his heart on battle. Beholding Duryodhana deeply afflicted by the son of Pandu, and seeing also the sons of Pandu displaying great prowess, what did that mighty Ka-warrior, viz. Kana, do? Alas, the foolish Duryodhana, relying on Kana, hopeth to vanquish the Pathas with their sons and Keshava in battle. Alas, it is a matter of great grief that Kana could not, with his strength, overcome the sons of Pandu in fight. Without doubt, destiny is supreme. Alas, the terrible end of that gambling match hath now come. Alas, these heart-rending sorrows, due to Duryodhana's acts, many in number and like unto terrible darts, are now being borne by me, O Sanjaya. O sire, Sir Bala's son used to be then regarded as a politic person. Kana also is always exceedingly attached to King Duryodhana. Alas, when such is the case, O Sanjaya, why have I then to hear of the frequent defeats and deaths of my sons? There is no one that can resist the Pandavas in battle. They penetrate into my army like a man into the midst of helpless women. Destiny, indeed, is supreme. Sanjaya said, O king, think now of all those wrongful acts of thine like that match at dice and the others, acts that have passed away from the subjects of thought with man. One should not, however, reflect on bygone acts. One may be ruined by such reflection. That result, which thou hadst expected, is now much removed from the point of fruition, since, although possessed of knowledge, thou didst not reflect on the propriety or impropriety of thy acts then. Many a time wert thou, O king, counselled against warring with the Pandavas. Thou didst not, however, O monarch, accept those counsels, from folly. Diverse sinful acts of a grave nature were perpetrated by thee against the sons of Pandu. For those acts this awful slaughter of kings hath now come. All that, however, is now past. Do not grieve, O bull of Bharata's race. O thou of unfading glory, listen now to the details of the awful carnage that has occurred. When the night dawned, Kana repaired to King Duryodhana. Approaching the king, the mighty armed hero said, I shall, O king, engage in battle today the illustrious son of Pandu. Either I will slay that hero today, or he will slay me. In consequence of the diverse things both myself and Partha had to do, O Bharata, an encounter, O king, could not hitherto take place between myself and Arjuna. Listen now, O monarch, to these words of mine, spoken according to my wisdom. Without slaying Partha in battle I will not come back, O Bharata. Since this army of ours hath been deprived of its foremost warriors, and since I will stand in battle, Partha will advance against me, especially because I am destitute of the darts Sakha gave me. Therefore, O ruler of men, listen now to what is beneficial. The energy of my celestial weapons is equal to the energy of Arjuna's weapons. In counteracting the feats of powerful foes, in lightness of hands, in range of the arrows shot, in skill, and in hitting the mark, save the Arsasi is never my equal. In physical strength, in courage, in knowledge of weapons, in prowess, O Bharata, in aiming, save the Arsasi is never my equal. My bow, called Vijaya, is the foremost of all weapons, of its kind. Desirous of doing what was agreeable to Indra, it was made by Viswakarman, the celestial artificer, for Indra. With that bow, O king, Indra had vanquished the Daityas. At its twang the Daityas beheld the 10 points to be empty. That bow, respected by all, Sakra gave to Bhrigu's son, Rama. That celestial and foremost of bows Bhrigu's son gave to me. With that bow I will contend in battle with the mighty armed Arjuna, that foremost of victorious warriors, like Indra fighting with the assembled deities. That formidable bow, the gift of Rama, is superior to Gandhaiva. It was with that bow that the earth was subjugated thrice 7 times, by Bhrigu's son. With that bow given to me by Rama I will contend in battle with the son of Pandu. I will, O Duryodhana, gladden thee today with thy friends, by slaying in battle that hero, viz., Arjuna, that foremost of conquerors. The whole earth with her mountains and forest and islands, without to heroic warrior, to oppose thy wish, will, O king, become thine today, over which thyself with thy sons and grandsons will reign supreme. Today there is nothing that is incapable of being achieved by me, especially when the object is to do what is agreeable to thee, even as success is incapable of being missed by an ascetic zealously devoted to virtue and having his soul under control. Arjuna will not be able to bear me in battle, even as a tree in contact with fire is incapable of bearing that element. I must, however, declare in what respect I am inferior to Arjuna. The string of his bow is celestial, and the 2 large quivers of his are inexhaustible. His driver is Govinda. I have none like him. His is that celestial and foremost of bows, called Gandhaiva, which is irrefragable in battle. I also have that excellent, celestial, and formidable bow called Vijaya. In respect of our bows, therefore, O king, I am superior to Arjuna. Listen now to those matters in which the heroic son of Pandu is superior to me. The holder of the reins of his steeds is he of Dashahu's race, who is adored by all the worlds. His celestial car decked with gold, given unto him by Agni, is impenetrable in every part, and his steeds also, O hero, are endued with the speed of the mind. His celestial standard, bearing the blazing ape, is exceedingly wonderful. Again, Krishna, who is creator of the universe, protects that car. Though inferior to Arjuna in respect of these things, I still desire to fight with him. This surely, however, the ornament of assemblies, is equal to Sorin. If he becomes my driver, victory will certainly be thine. Let surely, therefore, who is incapable of being resisted by foes be the driver of my car. Let a large number of carts bear my long shafts and those that are winged with vulturine feathers. Let a number of foremost cars, O monarch, with excellent steeds yoked unto them, always follow me, O bull of Bharata's race. By these arrangements I will, as regards the qualities mentioned, be superior to Arjuna. Shaulya is superior to Krishna, and I am superior to Arjuna. As that slayer of foes, viz., he of Dashahu's race, is acquainted with horse law, even so is that mighty car warrior, viz., Shaulya acquainted with horse law. There is none equal to the chief of the Madras in might of arms. As there is none equal to myself in weapons, so there is none equal to Shaulya in knowledge of steeds. So circumstanced, I will become superior to Partha. Against my car, the very gods with Vasava at their head will not dare advance. All these being attended to, when I take my stand on my car, I will become superior to Arjuna in the attributes of warrior and will then, O best of the Kuras, vanquish Vilgana. I desire, O monarch, all this to be done by thee, O scorcher of foes. Let these wishes of mine be accomplished. Let no time be suffered to elapse. If all this be accomplished, the most effectual aid will be rendered to me on every desirable point. Thou wilt then see, O Bharata, what I will achieve in battle. I will by every means vanquish the sons of Pandu in battle when they will approach me. The very gods and Asuras are not able to advance against me in battle. What need be said then of the sons of Pandu that are of human origin? Sanjaya continued, thus addressed by that ornament of battle, viz., Karna, thy son, worshipping the son of Radha, answered him, with a glad heart, saying, Accomplish that, O Karna, which thou thinkest. Equipped with goodly quivers and steeds, such cars shall follow thee in battle. Let as many cars as thou wishest bear thy long shafts and arrows equipped with vulturine feathers. Ourselves, as also all the kings, O Karna, will follow thee in battle. Sanjaya continued, having said these words, thy royal son, endued with great prowess, approached the ruler of the Madras and addressed him in the following words. 32. Sanjaya said, thy son then, O monarch, humbly approaching that mighty Car warrior, viz., the ruler of the Madras, addressed him, from affection, in these words, O thou of true vows, O thou of great good fortune, O enhancer of the sorrows of foes, O ruler of the Madras, O hero in battle, O thou that inspirest hostile troops with fear, thou hast heard, O foremost of speakers, how, for the sake of Karna who spoke unto me, I myself am desirous of soliciting thee among all these lions of kings. O thou of incomparable prowess, O king of the Madras, for the destruction of the foe, I solicit thee today, with humility and bow of the head. Therefore, for the destruction of Patha and for my good, it behoveth thee, O foremost of Car warriors, to accept, from love, the office of charioteer. With thee for his driver, the son of Radha will subjugate my foes. There is none else for holding the reins of Karna's steeds, except thee, O thou of great good fortune, thou that art the equal of Vasudeva in battle. Protect Karna then by every means like Brahma protecting Maeswara. Even as he of Vrishani's race protects by every means the son of Pandu in all dangers, do thou, O chief of the Madras, protect the son of Radha today. Bhishma, and Drona, and Kripa, and thyself and the valiant ruler of the Pajas, and Shakuni the son of Sabala, and Drona's son and myself, constituted the chief strength of our army. Even thus, O Lord of earth, we had divided amongst ourselves the hostile army into portions for the share of each. The share that had been allotted to Bhishma is now no more, as also that which had been allotted to the high-souled Drona. Going even beyond their allotted shares, those two slew my foes. Those 2 tigers among men, however, were old, and both of them have been slain deceitfully. Having achieved the most difficult feats, both of them, O sinless one, have departed hence to heaven. Similarly, many other tigers among men, of our army, slain by foes in battle, have ascended to heaven, casting off their lives and having made great exertions to the best of their powers. This my host, therefore, O king, the greater portion of which has been slaughtered, has been reduced to this state by the Pathas who were at first fewer than us. What should be done for the present? Do that now, O Lord of earth, by which the mighty and the high-souled sons of Kunti, of prowess incapable of being baffled, may be prevented from exterminating the remnant of my host. O Lord, the Pandavas have in battle slain the bravest warriors of this my force. The mighty armed Karna alone is devoted to our good, as also thyself, O tiger among men, that art the foremost of Car warriors in the whole world. O surely Karna wishes to contend in battle today with Arjuna. On him, O ruler of the Madras, my hopes of victory are great. There is none else in the world, save thee, that can make so good a holder of the reins for Karna. As Krishna is the foremost of all holders of reins for Patha in battle, even so, O king, be thou the foremost of all holders of reins for Karna's car. Accompanied and protected, O sire, by him in battle, the feats that Patha achieve are all before thee. Formerly, Arjuna had never slain his foes in battle in such a way. Now, however, his prowess has become great, united as he is with Krishna. Day after day, O ruler of the Madras, This vast Dhritarashtra force is seen to be rooted by Partha because he is united with Krishna. A portion remains of the share allotted to Karna and thyself, O thou of great splendor. Bear that share with Karna, and destroy it unitedly in battle. Even as Surya, uniting with Aruna, destroys the darkness, do thou, uniting with Karna, slay Partha in battle. Let the mighty car warriors of the enemy fly away, beholding in battle those two warriors endued with the effulgence of the morning sun, viz., Karna and Sholya, resembling two suns risen above the horizon. Even as darkness is destroyed, O sire, at the sight of Surya and Aruna, even so let the Kauntiyas, Pandavas, with the Bankalas and the Saranjayas perish beholding thee and Karna. Karna is the foremost of car warriors, and thou art the foremost of drivers. In the clash of battle, again there is none equal to thee. As he of Vrishani's race protects the son of Bandu under all circumstances, even so let thyself protect Vikarna's son Karna in battle. With thee as his driver, Karna will become invincible, O king, in battle even with the gods having Sakra at their head. What then need be said about the Pandavas? Do not doubt my words. Sanjaya continued, hearing these words of Duryodhana, Sholya became filled with rage. Contracting his brow into 3 lines, and waving his arms repeatedly, and rolling his large eyes red in wrath, that warrior of massive arms, proud of his lineage and wealth and knowledge and strength, said these words. Sholya said, Thou insultest me, O son of Gandhari, or without doubt suspectest me, since thou solicitest me, without hesitation, saying, Act thou as a driver. Apostrophe regarding Karna to be superior to ourselves, thou applaudest him thus. I, however, do not regard the son of Radha as my equal in battle. Assign to me a much greater share, O Lord of earth. Destroying that in battle, I will return to the place I come from. Or, if thou wishest, I will, O delighter of the Kuras, contend, single-handed, with the enemy. While engaged in consuming the foe, behold thou my prowess today. Brooding upon an insult, O thou of Kuru's race, a person like ourselves never engageth in my task. Do not have thy doubts about me. Never shouldst thou humiliate me in battle. Behold these 2 massive arms of mine, strong as the thunder. Behold also my excellent bow, and these shafts that resemble snakes of virulent poison. Behold my car, unto which I yoked excellent steeds endued with the speed of the wind. Behold also, O son of Gandhari, my mace decked with gold and twined with hempen cords. Filled with wrath, I can split the very earth, scatter the mountains, and dry up the oceans, with my own energy, O king. Knowing me, O monarch, to be so capable of afflicting the foe, why dost thou appoint me to the office of driver in battle for such a low-born person as Adhirata's son? It behoveth thee not, O king of kings, to set me to such mean tasks. Being so superior, I cannot make up my mind to obey the commands of a sinful person. He that causeth a superior person arrived of his own will and obedient from love, to yield to a sinful wight, certainly incurreth the sin of confusing the superior with the inferior. Brahman created the Brahmanas from his mouth, and the Kshatriyas from his arms. He created the Vaishyas from his thighs and the Shudras from his feet. In consequence of the intermixture of those 4 orders, O Bharata, from those 4 have sprung particular classes, viz., those born of men of superior classes wedding women of classes inferior to themselves, and vice versa. The Kshatriyas have been described to be protectors of the other classes, acquirers of wealth and givers of the same. The Brahmanas have been established on the earth for the sake of favouring its people by assisting at sacrifices, by teaching and acceptance of pure gifts. Agriculture and tending of cattle and gift are the occupations of the Vaishyas according to the scriptures. Shudras have been ordained to be the servants of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas. Similarly, the Sudras are the servants of Kshatriyas, and not latter the servants of the former. Listen to these my words, O sinless one. As regards myself, I am one whose coronal locks have undergone the sacred bath. I am born in a race of royal sages. I am reckoned a great car warrior. I deserve the worship and the praises that bards and eulogists render and sing. Being all this, O slayer of hostile troops, I cannot go to the extent of acting as the driver of the suitor's son in battle. I will never fight, undergoing an act of humiliation. I ask thy permission, O son of Gandhari, for returning home. Sanjaya continued, having said these words, the tiger among men and ornament of assemblies, viz., Sholya, filled with rage, stood up quickly and endeavoured to get away from that concourse of kings. Thy son, however, from affection and great regard, held the king, and addressed him in these sweet and conciliatory words, that were capable of accomplishing every object, without doubt. O Sholya, it is even so as thou hast said. But I have a certain purpose in view. Listen to it, O ruler of men. Karna is not superior to thee, nor do I suspect thee, O king. The royal chief of the Madras will never do that which is false. Those foremost of men that were thy ancestors always told the truth. I think it is for this that thou art called Artyani, the descendant of those that has truth for their refuge. And since, O giver of honours, thou art like a barbed to thy foes, therefore art thou called by the name of Sholya on earth. O thou that makest large presents to Brahmanas at sacrifices, do thou accomplish all that which, O virtuous one, thou hadst previously said thou wouldest accomplish. Neither the son of Radha nor myself am superior to thee in valour that I would select thee as the driver of those foremost of steeds that are yoked unto Karna's car. As, however, O sire, Karna is superior to Dhananjaya in regard to many qualities, even so doth the world regard thee to be superior to Vasudeva. Karna is certainly superior to Partha in the matter of weapons, O bull among men. Thou too art superior to Krishna in knowledge of steeds and might. Without doubt, O ruler of the Madras, thy knowledge of horse is double that which the high-souled Vasudeva hath. Sholya said, since, O son of Gandhari, thou describest me, O thou of Kuru's race, in the midst of all these troops, to be superior to Devaki's son, I am gratified with thee. I will become the driver of Radha's son of great fame while he will be engaged in battle with the foremost one of Bandhu's sons, as thou solicitest me. Let this, however, O hero, be my understanding with Vikatana's son, that I will in his presence utter whatever speeches I desire. Sanjaya continued, O king, thy son, with Karna then, O Bharata, answered the prince of the Madras, O best of Bharata's race, saying, so be it. 33. Duryodhana said, listen, once more, O ruler of the Madras, to what I will say unto thee, about what happened, O Lord, in the battle between the gods and the Asuras in days of yore. The great Rishi Markandeya narrated it to my sire. I will now recite it without leaving out anything, O best of royal sages. Listen to that account confidingly and without mistrusting it at all. Between the gods and the Asuras, each desirous of vanquishing the other, there happened a great battle, O king, which had Taraka for its evil root. It hath been heard by us that the Daityas were defeated by the gods. Upon the defeat of the Daityas, the three sons of Taraka, named Tarakaksha, Kamaluksha and Vijayamlan, O king, practicing the austerest penances, lived in the observance of high vows. By those penances they emaciated their bodies, O scorcher of foes. In consequence of their self-restraint, their penances, their vows and contemplation, The boon-giving grandsire became gratified with them and gave them boons. Unitedly they solicited the grandsire of all the worlds, O king, for the boon of immunity from death at the hands of all creatures of all times. The divine Lord and Master of all the worlds said unto them, There is nothing like immunity from death at the hands of all creatures. Therefore, ye Asuras, abstain from such a prayer. Solicit some of the boon that may seem desirable to you. When all of them, O king, having settled it amongst themselves after long and repeated conferences, bowed to the great Master of all the worlds and said these words, O God, O grandsire, give us this boon. Residing in 3 cities, we will rove over this earth, with thy grace ever before us. After 1,000 years then, we will come together, and our 3 cities also, O sinless one, will become united into one. That foremost one amongst the gods who will, with one shaft, pierce those 3 cities united into one, will, O Lord, be the cause of our destruction. Saying unto them, Let it be so, that God ascended to heaven. Those Asuras then, filled with joy at having obtained those boons and having settled it among themselves about the construction of the 3 cities, selected for the purpose the great Asura Maya, the celestial artificer, knowing no fatigue or decay, and worshipped by all the deities and Danavas. Then Maya, of great intelligence, by the aid of his own ascetic merit, constructed 3 cities, one of which was of gold, another of silver, and the third of black iron. The golden city was set in heaven, the silver city in the welkin, and the iron city was set on the earth, all in such a way as to revolve in a circle, O Lord of earth. Each of those cities measured 100 yojanas in breadth and 100 in length. And they consisted of houses and mansions and lofty walls and porches. And though teeming with lordly palaces close to each other, yet the streets were wide and spacious. And they were adorned with diverse mansions and gateways. Each of those cities, again, O monarch, had a separate king. The beautiful city of gold belonged to the illustrious Tarukaksha, the silver city to Kamaluksha, and the iron one to Vijayanmalan. Those 3 Daitya kings, soon assailing the 3 worlds with their energy, continued to dwell and reign, and began to say, Who is he called the Creator? And to those foremost of Danavas, having no heroes equal to them, came from every side millions upon millions of proud and flesh-eating Danavas who had before been defeated by the Celestials, and who now settled in the 3 cities, desirous of great prosperity. And to all of them thus united, Maya became the supplier of everything they wanted. Relying upon him, all of them resided there, in perfect fearlessness. Whoever amongst those residing in the triple city wished for any object in his heart had his wish fulfilled by Maya, aided by the latter's powers of illusion. Tarukaksha had a heroic and mighty son named Hari. He underwent the ostrest of penances, upon which the grandsire became gratified with him. When the god was gratified, Hari solicited a boon of him, saying, Let a lake start into existence in our city, such that persons, slain by means of weapons, may, when thrown into it, come out with life, and with redoubled strength. Obtaining this boon, the heroic Hari, son of Tarukaksha, created a lake, O Lord, in his city, that was capable of reviving the dead. In whatever form and whatever guise a Daitya might have been slain, if thrown into that lake, he was restored to life, in the self-same form and guise. Obtaining alive the slain among them, the Daityas began to afflict the 3 worlds. Crowned with success by means of austere penances, those enhancers of the fears of the gods sustained, O king, no diminution in battle. Stupefied then by covetousness and folly, and deprived of their senses, all of them began to shamelessly exterminate the cities and towns established all over the universe. Filled with pride at the boons they had received, and driving before them, at all times and from all places, the gods with their attendants, they roamed at all over celestial forests and other realms dear to the denizens of heaven and the delightful and sacred asylums of rishis. And the wicked Danavas ceased to show any respect for anybody. While the worlds were thus afflicted, Sakra, surrounded by the Maruts, battled against the 3 cities by hurling his thunder upon them from every side. When, however, Prandra failed to pierce those cities made impenetrable, O king, by the Creator with his boons, the chief of celestials, filled with fear, and leaving those cities, repaired with those very gods to that chastiser of foes, viz., the grandsire, for representing unto him the oppressions committed by the Asuras. Representing everything and bowing with their heads unto him, they asked the divine grandsire the means by which the triple city could be destroyed. The illustrious deity, hearing the words of Indra, told the gods, "He that is an offender against you offends against me also." The Asuras are all of wicked souls and always hate the gods. They that give pain to you always offend against me. I am impartial to all creatures. There is no doubt in this. For all that, however, they that are unrighteous should be slain. This is my fixed vow. Those 3 forts are to be pierced with 1 shaft. By no other means can their destruction be effected. None else, save Stanu, is competent to pierce them with 1 shaft. Ye Adityas, select Stanu, otherwise called Ishana, and Jishnu, who is never fatigued with work, as your warrior. It is he that will destroy those Asuras. Hearing these words of his, the gods with Sakra at their head, making Brahman take their lead, sought the protection of the deity having the bull for his mark. Those righteous ones accompanied by rishis devoted to the severest penances and uttering the eternal words of the Vedas, sought Bhava with their whole soul. And they praised, O king, in the high words of the Vedas, that dispeller of the fears in all situations of fear, that universal soul, that supreme soul, that one by whom all this is pervaded with his soul. Then the gods who, by special penances, had learned to still all the functions of his soul and to withdraw soul from matter, they who had their soul always under control, beheld him, called Ishana, that lord of that mass of energy, that is, who hath no equal in the universe, that source of everything, that sinless self. Through that deity is one they had imagined him to be of various forms. Beholding in that high-souled one those diverse forms that each had individually conceived in own heart, all of them became filled with wonder. Beholding that unborn one, that Lord of the universe, to be the embodiment of all creatures, the gods and the regenerate rishis, all touched the earth with their heads, saluting them with the word welcome and raising them from their bent attitudes. The illustrious Sankara addressed them smilingly, saying, "Tell us the object of your visit." Commanded by the 3-eyed god, their hearts became easy. They then said these words unto him, "Our repeated salutations to thee, O Lord. Salutations to thee that art the source of all the gods, to thee that art armed with the bow, to thee that art full of wrath. Salutations to thee that hast destroyed the sacrifice of that Lord of creatures, viz., Daksha, to thee that art adored by all the lords of creatures. Salutations to thee that art always praised, to thee that deservest to be praised, to thee that art death's self. Salutations to thee that art red, to thee that art fierce, to thee that art blue-throated, to thee that art armed with a trident, to thee that art incapable of being baffled, to thee that hast eyes as beautiful as those of the gazelle, to thee that fightest with the foremost of weapons, to thee that deservest all praise, to thee that art pure, to thee that art destruction's self, to thee that art the destroyer, to thee that art irresistible, to thee that art Brahman, to thee that leadest the life of a Brahmachari, to thee that art Ishana, to thee that art immeasurable, to thee that art the great controller, to thee that art robed in tatters, to thee that art ever engaged in penances, to thee that art tawny, to thee that art observant of vows, to thee that art robed in animal skins, to thee that art the sire of Kumara, to thee that art three-eyed, to thee that art armed with the foremost of weapons, to thee that destroyest the afflictions of all that seek thy shelter, to thee that destroyest all haters of Brahmanas, to thee that art the Lord of all trees, the Lord of all men, the Lord of all kind, and ever the Lord of sacrifices. Salutations to thee that art always at the head of troops, to thee that art three-eyed, to thee that art endued with fierce energy. We devote ourselves to thee in thought, word and deed. Be gracious unto us. Gratified with these adorations, the Holy One, saluting them with the word welcome, said unto them, Let your fears be dispelled. Say, what we are to do for you. 34. Duryodhana said, after the fears of those throngs of the Pitris, the gods, and the rishis had thus been dispelled by that high-souled deity, Brahman then offered his adorations unto Sankara, and said these words for the benefit of the universe. Through thy favour, O Lord of all, the lordship of all creatures is mine. Occupying the trunk, I have given a great boon to the Danavas. It behoveth none else, save thee, O Lord of the past and the future, to destroy those wicked wights that show no regard for anyone. Thou, O God, art the only person competent to slay the foes of these denizens of heaven that have sought thy protection and that solicit thee. O Lord of all the gods, show favour to these. Slay the Danavas, O wielder of the trident. O giver of honours, let the universe, through thy grace, obtain happiness. O Lord of all the worlds, thou art the one whose shelter should be sought. We all seek thy shelter. Stanu said, all your foes should be slain. But I shall not, however, slay them single-handed. The enemies of the gods are possessed of might. Therefore, all of you, united together, consume those enemies of yours in battle, with half my might. Union is great strength. The god said, theirs, Danavas, is twice the energy and might of ourselves, we think, for we have already seen their energy and might. The Holy One said, those sinful wights that have offended against ye should be slain. With half of my energy and might, slay all those enemies of yours. The god said, we will not be able, O Maeswara, to bear half of thy energy. With, on the other hand, half of our united might, do thou slay those foes. The Holy One said, if, indeed, ye have not the ability to bear half of my might, then, endued with half of your united energy, I will slay them. Duryodhana continued, the celestials then, addressing the god of gods, said, so be it, O best of kings. Taking half of their energies from all of them, he became superior in might. Indeed, in might that god became superior to all in the universe. From that time Sankara came to be called Mahadeva. And Mahadeva then said, armed with bow and shaft, I will, from my car, slay in battle those foes of yours, ye denizens of heaven. Therefore, ye gods, see now to my car and bow and shaft, so that I may, this very day, throw the Asuras down on the earth. The god said, gathering all forms that may be found in the three worlds and taking potions of each, we will each, O Lord of the gods, construct a car of great energy for thee. It will be a large car, the handiwork of Vishwakarman, designed with intelligence. Saying this, those tigers among the gods began the construction of that car. And they made Vishnu and Soma and Hutasana the arrow for Sankara Zeus. Agni became the staff, and Soma became the head, and Vishnu the point, O king, of that foremost of arrows. The goddess Earth, with her large cities and towns, her mountains and forests and islands, that home of diverse creatures, was made the car. The Mandara mountain was made its axle, and the great river Ganga was made its janga, and the points of the compass, cardinal and subsidiary, became the ornaments of the car. The constellations became its shaft, the Krita age became its yoke, and that best of snakes, viz. Vasuki, became the Klavara of that car. Himravat and Vindhya mountains became its Upaskara and Adhisthana, and the Udaya and the Asta mountains were made the wheels of that car by those foremost ones among the gods. They made the excellent ocean, that abode of the Danavas, its other axle. The 7 rishis became the protectors of the wheels of that car. Ganga and Sarasvati and Sindhu in the sky became its Tura. All the other rivers and all the waters became the cords for binding the several limbs of that car. Day and night and the other divisions of time such as colours and clusters and seasons became its Amukashaw. The blazing planets and the stars became its wooden fence. Religion, profit, and pleasure, united together, became its Trivanu. The herbs and the creepers, decked with flowers and fruits, became its spells. Making the sun and the moon equal, these were made there, other 2 wheels of that foremost of cars. Day and night were made its auspicious swings on the right and left. The 10 foremost of snakes having Dhritarashtra for their first, all exceedingly strong, formed their other shaft of that car. The sky was made its other yoke, and the clouds called Samvataka and Valahaka were the 11 strings of the yoke. The 2 twilights and Dritari and Meda and Stiti and Saunati, and the firmament bespangled with planets and stars, were made the skins for covering that car. Those regents of the world, viz., the lords of the gods, of the waters, of the dead, and of treasures, were made the steeds of that car. Kalapishta, Anuashaw, and Karkadaka, and Ananjaya and the other snakes became the cords for binding the manes of the steeds. The cardinal and the subsidiary directions became the reins of the steeds of that car. The Vedic sound Vashat became the goad, and Gayatri became the string attached to that goad. The 4 auspicious days were made the traces of the steeds, and the bitress presiding over them were made the hooks and pins. Action and truth and ascetic penances and profit were made the cords of that car. The mind became the ground upon which that car stood, and speech the tracks upon which it was to proceed. Beautiful banners of various hues waved in the air, with lightning and Indra's bow attached to it. That blazing car gave fierce light. That space of time which, on a former occasion, had, in the sacrifice of the high Sudeshana, been fixed as a year, became the bow, and the goddess Savitri became the louder sounding bowstring. A celestial coat of mail was made, decked with costly gems, and impenetrable and effulgent, sprung from the wheel of time. That golden mountain, viz., the beautiful Mru, became the flagstaff, and the clouds decked with flashes of lightning became its banners. Thus equipped, that car shone brilliantly like a blazing fire in the midst of the priests officiating at a sacrifice. Beholding that car properly equipped, the gods became filled with wonder. Seeing the energies of the entire universe united together in one place, O sire, the gods wondered, and at last represented unto that illustrious deity that the car was ready. After, O monarch, that best of cars had thus been constructed by the gods, O tiger among men, for grinding their foes, Sankara placed upon it his own celestial weapons. Making the sky its flagstaff, he placed upon it his bovine bull. The Brahmana's rod, the rod of death, Rudra's rod, and fever became the protectors of the sides of that car and stood with faces turned towards all sides. Atharvan and Angirasa became the protectors of the car wheels of that illustrious warrior. The Rigveda, the Samaveda, and the Puranas stood in advance of that car. The histories and the Yajurveda became the protectors of the rear. All sacred speeches and all the sciences stood around it, and all hymns, O monarch, and the Vedic sound of Vashat also. And the syllable Om, O king, standing in the van of that car, made it exceedingly beautiful. Having made the year adorned with the 6 seasons his bow, he made his own shadow the irrefragable string of that bow in that battle. The illustrious Rudra is death's self. The year became his bow, Kalaratri the Death Knight therefore, which is Rudra's shadow, became the indestructible string of that bow. Vishnu and Agni and Soma became, as already said, the arrow. The universe is said to consist of Agni and Soma. The universe is similarly said to consist of Vishnu. Vishnu is, again, the soul of the holy bhava of immeasurable energy. For this the touch of that bowstring became unbearable to the Asuras. And the Lord Sankara cast on that arrow his own irresistible and fierce wrath, the unbearable fire of anger, viz., that which was born of wrath of Bhrigu and Angirasa. Then he called Nila Rohita, blue and red or smoke, that terrible deity robed in skins looking like 10,000 suns, and shrouded by the fire of superabundant energy, blazed up with splendor. That discomforter of even him that is difficult of being discomfited, that victor, that slayer of all haters of Brahma, called also Hara, that rescuer of the righteous and destroyer of the unrighteous, viz., the illustrious Sthanu, accompanied by many beings of terrible might and terrible forms that were endued with the speed of the mind and capable of agitating and crushing all foes, as if with all the 14 faculties of the soul awake about him, looked exceedingly resplendent. Having his limbs for their refuge, this entire universe of mobile and immobile creatures that were present there, O King, looked beautiful, presenting a highly wonderful appearance. Beholding that car, duly equipped, he cased himself in mail and armed himself with a bow, and took up that celestial shaft born of Soma and Vishnu and Agni. The gods, O King, then commanded that foremost of celestials, viz., wind, to breathe after that puissant deity all the fragrance that he carries. Then Mahadeva, terrifying the very gods, and making the very earth tremble, ascended that car resolutely. Then the great rishis, the Gandharvas, those throngs of gods and those diverse tribes of Apsaras began to praise that Lord of the gods while he was about to ascend that car. Adored by the regenerate rishis, and praised by the eulogists and diverse tribes of dancing Apsaras well versed in the art of dancing, that boon-giving Lord, armed with scimitar and arrow and bow, looked very beautiful. Smiling, he then asked the gods, "Who will become my driver?" The gods answered him, saying, "He whom thou wilt appoint, will, O Lord of the gods, without doubt, become thy driver." And to them the god replied, "Reflecting yourselves, without delay make him my driver who is superior to me." Hearing these words uttered by the Trisul deity, the gods repaired unto the grandsire and inclining him to grace, said these words, "We have accomplished everything, O Holy One, that thou hadst ordered us to do in the matter of afflicting the foes of celestials. The deity having the bull for his mark has been gratified with us. A car hath been constructed by us, equipped with many wonderful weapons. We do not, however, know who is to become the driver of that foremost of cars. Therefore, let some foremost one among the gods be appointed as the driver. O Holy One, it behoveth thee to make true those words that thou, O Lord, hast then said to us. Before this, O God, thou hadst even said to us that thou wouldest do us good. It behoveth thee to accomplish that promise. That irresistible and best of cars, that router of our foes, hath been constructed out of the component parts of the celestials. The deity armed with Pinaka hath been made the warrior who is to stand on it. Striking the Danavas with fear, he is prepared for battle. The 4 Vedas have become the 4 foremost of steeds. With her mountains, the earth has become the car of that high-souled one. The stars have become the adornments of that vehicle. As already said, Hara is the warrior. We do not, however, see who is to become the driver. A driver should be sought for that car who is superior to all these. Equal to thee in importance is that car, O God, and Hara is the warrior. Armor, and weapons, and bow, these we have got already, O grandsire. Except thee, We do not behold any person that can make its driver. Thou art endued with every accomplishment. Thou, O Lord, art superior to all the gods. Mounting upon that car with speed, hold the reins of those foremost of steeds, for the victory of the celestials and the destruction of their foes. It has been heard by us that bowing with their heads unto the grandsire, that Lord of the three worlds, the gods sought to gratify him for inducing him to accept the drivership. The grandsire said, There is nothing of untruth in all this that ye have said, ye denizens of heaven. I will hold the reins of the steeds for Gapadin while he will be engaged in fight. Then that illustrious god, that creator of the worlds, the grandsire, was appointed by the gods as the driver of the Haisudishana. And when he was about to ascend quickly upon that car worshipped by all, those steeds, endued with the speed of the wind, bowed themselves with their heads to the earth. Having ascended the car, the illustrious deity, viz., the grandsire resplendent with his own energy, took the reins and the goad. Then the illustrious god, raising those steeds, addressed that foremost one among the gods, viz., Sthanu, saying, Ascend. Then, taking that arrow composed of Vishnu and Soma and Agni, Sthanu ascended the car, causing the foe to tremble by means of his bow. The great rishis, the Gandharvas, the throngs of gods, and the diverse tribes of Apsaras, then praised that Lord of the gods after he had ascended the car. Resplendent with beauty, the boon-giving Lord, armed with scimitar, shaft, and bow, stayed on the car, causing the three worlds to blaze forth with his own energy. The great deity once more said unto the gods headed by Indra, Ye should never grieve, doubting my ability to destroy the Asura. Know that the Asuras have already been slain by means of this arrow. The gods then answered, saying, It is true. The Asuras have already been slain. Indeed, the gods, thinking that the words which the divine Lord had said could not be untrue, became exceedingly gratified. Then that Lord of the gods proceeded, surrounded by all the gods, upon that large car, O king, which had nothing to compare with it. And the illustrious deity was adored, all the while by the attendants that always wait upon him, and by others that subsisted on meat, that were invincible in battle, and that danced in joy on the present occasion, running wildly on all sides and shouting at one another. Rishis also, of great good fortune, possessed of ascetic merit and endued with high qualities, as also the gods, wished for Mahadeva's success. When that boon-giving Lord, that dispeller of the fears of the three worlds, thus proceeded, the entire universe, all the gods, O best of men, became exceedingly gratified. And the rishis there adored the Lord of the gods with diverse hymns, and enhancing his energy, O king, shook up their station there. And millions upon millions of Gandharvas played upon diverse kinds of musical instruments at the hour of his setting out. When the boon-giving Brahman, having ascended the car, set out for the Asuras, the Lord of the universe, smiling the while, said, Excellent, excellent. Proceed, O God, to the spot where the deities are. Urge the steeds wakefully. Behold today the might of arms while I slay the foe in battle. Thus addressed, Brahman urged those steeds endued with the fleetness of the wind or thought towards that spot where the triple city, O king, stood, protected by the deities and the Danavas. With those steeds worshipped by all the worlds, and which coursed with such speed that they seemed to devour the skies, the illustrious god quickly proceeded for the victory of the denizens of heaven. Indeed, when Bava, riding on the car, set out towards the triple city, his bull uttered tremendous roars, filling all the points of the compass. Hearing that loud and terrible roar of the bull, many of the descendants and followers of Taraka, those enemies of the gods, breathed their last. Others amongst them stood facing the foe for battle. Then Sthanu, O king, armed with trident, became deprived of his senses in wrath. All creatures became frightened, and the three worlds began to tremble. Frightful portents appeared when he was on the point of aiming that shaft. In consequence, however, of the pressure caused by the weight of Soma, Agni, and Vishnu that were in that shaft, as also of the pressure caused by the weight of Brahman and Rudra and the latter's bow, that car seemed to sink. Then Narayana, issuing out of the point of that shaft, assumed the form of a bull and raised that large car. During the time the car had sunk and the foe had began to roar, the illustrious deity, endued with great might, began, from rage, to utter loud shouts, standing, O giver of honours, on the head of his bull and the back of his steeds. At that time the illustrious Rudra was employed in eyeing the den of the city. While in that posture, O best of men, Rudra cut off the teats of the horses and clove the hoofs of the bull. Blessed be thou, from the date the hoofs of all animals of the bovine species came to be cloven. And from that time, O king, horses, afflicted by the mighty Rudra of wonderful deeds, came to be without teats. Then Sava, having stringed his bow and aimed that shaft with which he had united the Pasupata weapon, waited thinking of the triple city. And O king, as Rudra thus stood, holding his bow, the three cities during the time became united. When the three cities, losing their separate characters, became united, tumultuous became the joy of the high-souled gods. Then all the gods, the Siddhas, and the great rishis, uttered the word Jaya, adoring Maheshwara. The triple city then appeared immediately before that god of unbearable energy, that deity of fierce and indescribable form, that warrior who was desirous of slaying the Asuras. The illustrious deity, that lord of the universe, then drawing that celestial bow, sped that shaft which represented the might of the whole universe, at the triple city. Upon that foremost of shafts, O thou of great good fortune, being shot, loud wails of woe were heard from those cities as they began to fall down towards the earth. Burning those Asuras, he threw them down into the western ocean. Thus was the triple city burned, and thus were the Danavas exterminated by Maheshwara in wrath, from desire of doing good to the three worlds. The fire born of his own wrath, the three-eyed god quenched, saying, Do not reduce the three worlds to ashes. After this, the gods, the rishis, and the three worlds became all restored to their natural dispositions, and gratified Sthanu of unrivaled energy with words of high import. Receiving then the permission of the great god, the gods with the Creator at their head went away to the places they came from, their object being accomplished after such effort. Thus that illustrious deity, that Creator of the worlds, that Lord of both the gods and the Asuras, viz., Maheshwara, did that which was for the good of all the worlds. As the illustrious Brahman, the Creator of the worlds, the grandsire, the supreme deity of unfading glory, acted as the driver of Rudra, so do thou restrain the steeds of the high-souled son of Radha like grandsire restraining those of Rudra. There is not the slightest doubt, O tiger among kings, that thou art superior to Krishna, to Karna, and to Falguna. In battle, Karna is like Rudra, and thou art like Brahman in policy. United, ye two, therefore, were competent to vanquish my foes that are even like the Asuras. Let, O Shaulya, that be done speedily today, by which this Karna, grinding the Pandava troops, may be able to slay Kunti's son owning white steeds and having Krishna for the driver of his car. Upon thee depend Karna, ourselves, our kingdom, and our victory in battle. Hold the reins, therefore, of the excellent steeds of Karna. There is another story which I will narrate. Listen once more to it. A virtuous Brahmana had recited it in the presence of my father. Hearing these delightful words fraught with the reasons and purposes of acts, do, O Shaulya, what thou mayst settle, without entertaining any scruples. In the race of the Brukas was Jamadani of severe ascetic penances. He had a son endued with energy and every virtue, who became celebrated by the name of Rama. Practicing the austerest penances, of cheerful soul, bound to observances and vows, and keeping his senses under control, he gratified the god Bhava for obtaining weapons. In consequence of his devotion and tranquility of heart, Mahadeva became gratified with him. Sankara, understanding the desire cherished in his heart, showed himself unto Rama. And Mahadeva said, O Rama, I am gratified with thee. Blessed be thou, thy desire is known to me. Make thy soul pure. Thou wilt then have all that thou desirest. I will give thee all weapons when thou wilt become pure. Those weapons, O son of Bhrigu, burn a person that is incompetent and that is not deserving of them. Thus addressed by that god of gods, that deity bearing the trident, the son of Jamadani, bending his head unto that puissant high-souled one, said, O god of gods, it behoveth thee to give those weapons unto me that am always devoted to thy service, when, indeed, thou wilt regard me fit for holding them. Duryodhana continued. With penances then, and restraining his senses, and observances of vows, and worship and offerings, and with sacrifices and homa performed with mantras, Rama adored Sava for many long years. At last Mahadeva, pleased with the high-souled son of Bhrigu's race, described him, in the presence of his divine spouse, as possessed of many virtues. This Rama, of firm vows, is ever devoted to me. Gratified with him, the Lord Sankara thus repeatedly proclaimed his virtues in the presence of gods and the rishis, O slayer of foes. Meanwhile, the deities became very mighty. Blinded by pride and folly, they afflicted the denizens of heaven. The gods then, uniting together, and firmly resolved to slay them, strove earnestly for the destruction of those foes. They, however, failed to vanquish them. The gods then, repairing to Mahabharata, the lord of began to gratify him with devotion, saying, Slay our foes. That god, having promised the destruction of their foes unto the celestials, summoned Rama the descendant of Bhrigu. And Sankara addressed Rama, saying, O descendant of Bhrigu, slay all the assembled foes of the gods, from desire of doing good unto all the worlds as also for my satisfaction. Thus addressed, Rama replied unto that boon-giving Lord of 3 eyes, saying, What strength have I, O chief of the gods, destitute as I am of weapons, to slay in battle the assembled Danavas that are accomplished in weapons and invincible in fight? Mahabharata said, Go thou at my command. Thou shalt slay those foes. Having vanquished all those enemies, thou shalt acquire numerous merits. Hearing these words and accepting them all, Rama, causing propitiatory rites to be performed for his success, proceeded against the Danavas. Addressing those enemies of the gods that were endued with might and possessed with folly and pride, he said, Ye deities that are fierce in battle, give me battle. I have been sent by the god of gods to vanquish you. Thus addressed by the descendant of Bhrigu, the deities began to fight. The delighter of the Bhagavas, however, slaying the deities in battle, with strokes whose touch resembled that of Indra's thunder, came back to Mahadeva. Jamadani's son, that foremost of Brahmanas, returned with many wounds on his person inflicted by the Danavas. Touched, however, by Sthanu, his wounds were immediately healed. Gratified also with that feat of his, the illustrious god gave diverse kinds of boons unto the high-souled son of Bhrigu. With satisfaction in his heart, the trident-wielding god of gods said, The pain thou hast suffered in consequence of the fall of weapons upon thy body evidences the superhuman feat that thou hast achieved, O delighter of the Bhrigus. As desired by thee, accept from me these celestial weapons. Duryodhana continued, having obtained all the celestial weapons and the boons that had been desired by him, Rama bowed unto Shiva with his head. Obtaining the leave also of the gods, that great ascetic went away. This is the old story that the Rishi had recited. the descendant of Brig, who gave the whole science of weapons unto the high Sult Kana, O tiger among kings with delighted heart. If Kana had any fault, O Lord of earth, the delighter of Brug's race would never have given him his celestial weapons. I do not think that Kana could have been born in the Sutta order. I think him to be the son of a god, born in the Kshatriya order. I think that he was abandoned, in infancy, in order that the race in which he was born might be ascertained, by his features and feats. By no means, oh surely, could this Kana have been born in the Sutta order. With his natural earring and natural coat of mail, this mighty Ka warrior of long arms, resembling Surya himself, could not be born by a common woman, even as a she-deer can never bear a tiger. His arms are massive, each resembling the trunk of a prince of elephants. Behold his chest that is so broad and capable of resisting every foe. Kana, otherwise called Vaikatana, O king, cannot be an ordinary person. Endued with great valor, this disciple of Rama, O king of kings, is a high-souled personage. 35. Duryodhana said, even thus did that illustrious deity, that grandsire of all the worlds, viz., Brahman, act as driver on that occasion, and even thus did Rudra become the warrior. The driver of the car, O hero, should be superior to the warrior on it. Therefore, O tiger among men, do thou hold the reins of the steeds in this battle. As on that occasion the grandsire had been selected with care by all the celestials, indeed, O great king, as one greater than Sankara, so thou that art superior to Kana art now selected by us with care. Like the grandsire holding the reins of Rudra's steeds, do thou hold, without delay, the reins of Kana's steeds in battle, O thou of great splendor. Surely said, O foremost of men, many a time have I heard this excellent and celestial history, recited to me, of those two lions among gods. Indeed, I have heard how the grandsire acted as the driver of Bhava, and how the Asuras also, O Bharata, were all destroyed with one shaft. Krishna also had knowledge of all this before, the knowledge, viz., of how the illustrious grandsire had become the driver on that occasion of yore. Indeed, Krishna knoweth the past and the future with all their details. Knowing this fact, he became the driver, O Bharata, of Partha, like the self-create becoming the driver of Rudra. If the Sutta's son, by some means, succeeds in slaying the son of Kunti, Keshava, beholding Partha slain, will fight himself. That bearer of the conch, the discus, and the mace, will then consume thy army. There is no king here that will stay in the ranks in front of that illustrious one of Vrishni's race when he will be excited with wrath. Sanjaya said, unto the ruler of the Madras, who was speaking in that strain, that chastiser of foes, viz., thy mighty armed son of cheerful soul, replied, saying, do not, O mighty armed one, think disparagingly of Kana, otherwise called Vaikatana, in battle, that warrior who is the foremost of all wielders of arms, and who is acquainted with the meaning of the whole body of our scriptures. Hearing the terrible and loud twang of his bow and the sound of his palms, the Pandava troops fly away on all sides. Thou hast witnessed it with thy own eyes, O mighty armed one, how Ghatotkaka, screened by his illusions and displaying hundreds of illusions, was still slain that night by Kana. Feeling a great fear all these days of bats who could never stand fronting Kana. The mighty Bhimsen also, moved hither and thither by the horn of Kana's bow, was, O king, addressed in very harsh words such as fool and glutton. The two brave sons of Madri also were defeated by Kana in great battle, though, from some object he had in view, he did not, O sire, slay them then. That foremost one of Vrishni's race, viz., the heroic Satyaki, the chief of the Satvata clan, was vanquished by Kana and made callous. Others, such as all the Seringias headed by Drishthadumna, have been repeatedly defeated in battle by Karna, the great Ka warrior who has achieved all these feats and who, excited with wrath, is competent to slay Purandara himself armed with a thunderbolt in fight. Thyself also, O hero, art acquainted with every weapon. Thou art, again, the master of all branches of learning. There is none on earth who is thy equal in might of arms. Irresistible in prowess, thou art like a dart, surelier unto thy enemies. It is for this, O king, that thou, O slayer of foes, art called surelier. Encountering the might of thy arms, all the Satwatas were unable to get the better of it. Is Krishna superior to thee in might of arms, O king? Indeed, as Krishna is to bear the burthen of the Pandava troops upon the slaughter of Patha, even so art thou to bear the burthen of this vast Kaurava force. If Karna lays down his life, why should he be able to resist my troops, and why shouldst not thou be able to slay the hostile troops, O sire? For thy sake, O sire, I would willingly follow the footsteps of my slain brothers and the other heroic kings of the earth. Surely said, O son of Gandhari, when thou, O giver of honours, describest me before thy troops to be superior to the son of Devaki, I am exceedingly gratified with thee. I accept the drivership of the celebrated son of Radha when he will fight with that foremost of the sons of Pandu, as thou desirest. I have, however, O hero, a compact to make with Vyakatana, and that is this: I will utter whatever words I may wish in this one's presence. Sanjaya continued, Thy son then, O king, with Karna, O sire, answered the ruler of the Madras, saying, Let it be so in the presence of all the Kshatriyas. Assured by Shulya's acceptance of the drivership, Duryodhana, filled with joy, embraced Karna. Eulogized by bards and panegyrists around, thy son then once more addressed Karna, saying, Slay all the Pathas in battle, like the great Indra slaying the Danavas. Shulya, having accepted the office of holding the reins of his steeds, Karna, with a cheerful heart, once more addressed Duryodhana, saying, The ruler of the Madras does not say very cheerfully what he says. O king, solicit him once more in sweet words. Thus addressed, the mighty king Duryodhana, possessed of great wisdom and accomplished in everything, once more spoke unto that lord of earth, viz., Shulya, the ruler of Madras, in a voice deep as that of the clouds and filling the whole region there with the sound of that voice. O Shulya, Karna thinks that he should fight with Arjuna today. O tiger among men, hold the reins of Karna's steeds in battle. Having slain all the other warriors, Karna desires to slay Fulgana. I solicit thee, O king, repeatedly, in the matter of holding the reins of his steeds. As Krishna, that foremost of all drivers, is the counsellor of Patha, even so do thou protect the son of Radha today from every danger. Sanjaya continued, Embracing thy son then, Shulya the ruler of the Madras, joyfully answered that slayer of foes, viz., Duryodhana, saying, If this is what is thou thinkest, O royal son of Gandhari, O thou of handsome features, I shall, for that, accomplish everything that may be agreeable to thee. O chief of the Bharatas, for whatever acts I may be fit, employing myself therein with my whole heart, I will bear the burthen of those acts of thine. Let Karna, however, and thyself pardon me all those words, agreeable or disagreeable, that I may speak unto Karna from desire of his good. Karna said, O ruler of the Madras, be thou ever engaged in our good as Brahman in that of Ishana, as Keshava in that of Patha. Shulya said, These four kinds of conduct, self-rebuke and self-praise, speaking ill of others, and adulation of others, are never practiced by those that are respectable. That, however, O learned one, which I shall say, for inspiring thy confidence, is fraught with self-adulation. For all that, listen to it duly. O puissant one, like Matuli himself, I am fit to act as the driver of even Indra in watchfulness, in managing the steeds, in knowledge of coming danger and of the means of avoiding it, and in competence to avoid it in practice. When thou wilt be engaged in battle with Partha, I will hold the reins of thy steeds. Let thy anxiety be dispelled, O Suta's son. 36. Duryodhana said, This one, O Kana, will act as thy driver, this ruler of the Madras, who is superior to Krishna, like Matuli the driver of the chief of the celestials. Indeed, as Matuli taketh the management of the car unto which the steeds of Indra are attached, even so will Shaulya be the driver of the steeds of thy car today. With thyself as warrior on that vehicle and the ruler of the Madras as its driver, that foremost of car will certainly vanquish the Parthas in battle. Sanjaya continued, When the morning came, O monarch, Duryodhana once more addressed the ruler of the Madras endued with great activity, saying, O ruler of the Madras, hold the reins in battle of Kana's foremost of steeds. Protected by thee, the son of Radha will vanquish Dhananjaya. Thus addressed, Shaulya, answering, So be it, descended the car, O Bharata. When Shaulya approached that car, Kana with a cheerful heart addressed his driver, saying, O charioteer, quickly equip the car for me. Having duly equipped the triumphal car, the foremost of its kind, which resembled the vapory mansions in the sky, Shaulya presented it to Kana, saying, Blessed be thou, victory to thee. Then Kana, that foremost of car warriors, duly worshipping that car which had in days of old been sanctified by a priest conversant with Brahma, and circumambulating it and carefully adoring the god Surya, addressed the ruler of the Madras standing near, saying, Ascend the vehicle. Thereupon Shaulya of mighty energy ascended that large, invincible, and foremost of cars, belonging to Kana like a lion ascending a mountain summit. Beholding Shaulya stationed, Kana ascended his excellent car like the sun riding on a mass of clouds charged with lightning. Mounted on the same car, those two heroes endued with a splendor or the sun of fire looked resplendent like Surya and Agni sitting together on a cloud in the firmament. Eulogized then by bards and panegyrists, those two heroes of great effulgence looked like Indra and Agni adored with hymns in a sacrifice by Ritwiks and Sardasyas. Kana stood on that car, the reins of whose steeds were held by Shaulya, stretching his formidable bow, like the sun himself within a halo of circular light. Stationed on that foremost of cars, that tiger among men, Kana, with his shafts constituting his rays, looked beautiful like the sun on the Mandara mountains. And to the mighty armed son of Radha, that warrior of immeasurable energy, stationed on his car for battle, Duryodhana said these words, O son of Adrata, O hero, do thou achieve that feat difficult of accomplishment which Drona and Bhishma have not achieved in the very sight of all the bowmen. I had always believed that those two mighty car warriors, viz., Bhishma and Drona, would without doubt slay Arjuna and Bhimasena in battle. Like a second wielder of the thunderbolt, O son of Radha, do thou in great battle achieve that feat worthy of a hero which was not achieved by those two. Either seize King Yudhishthira the just or slay Dhananjaya and Bhimasena, O son of Radha, and the twin sons of Madri. Blessed be thou, let victory be thine. Set out for battle, O tiger among men. Reduce to ashes all the troops of Pandu's son. Then thousands of trumpets and tens of thousands of drums, sounded together, produced a noise like that of the clouds in the welkin. Accepting those words of Duryodhana, the foremost of car warriors stationed on his car, viz., the son of Radha, addressed Shaulya, that warrior accomplished in battle, saying, Urge the steeds, O mighty armed one, so that I may slay Dhananjaya and Bhimasena and both the twins and King Yudhishthira. O Shaulya, Let Dananj I behold today the might of my arms, when I will be engaged in shooting shafts winged with canker feathers in hundreds and thousands. Today, O surely I will shoot shafts with great energy for the destruction of the Pandavas and the victory of Duryodhana. Surely said, O Suta's son, why dost thou think so low of the sons of Pandu, all of whom are endued with great might, all of whom are great bowmen, and all of whom are acquainted with every weapon? They are unretreating, of great good fortune, invincible, and of prowess incapable of being baffled. They are capable of inspiring fear in the heart of Indra himself. When, son of Radha, thou wilt hear the twang of Gandiva in battle, resembling the peal of the thunder itself, thou wilt not then utter such speeches. When thou wilt behold Dharma's son and the twins causing a canopy, like that of the clouds in the welkin, with their sharp arrows, and the other invincible kings of the Pandava army, endued with great lightness of hands and shooting showers of shafts, and weakening their foes, then thou wilt not utter such words. Sanjaya continued, disregarding those words spoken by the ruler of the Madras, Karna addressing him endues with great activity, saying, Proceed. 37. Sanjaya said, beholding the mighty Karna take up his station from desire of battle, the Kauravas, filled with delight, uttered loud shouts from every side. With the beat of cymbals and the sound of drums, with the whiz of diverse kinds of arrows and the roars of combatants endued with great activity, all thy troops proceeded to battle, making death only the point at which to stop. When Karna set out and the warriors of the Kuru army were filled with joy, the earth, O king, trembled and made a loud noise. The 7 great planets, including the sun, seemed to proceed against one another for combat. Meteoric showers became noticeable, and all the quarters seemed ablaze. Thunders fell from a cloudless sky, and fierce winds began to blow. Animals and birds in larger numbers kept thy army to their right, foreboding great calamities. After Karna had set out, his steeds tumbled down on the earth. A frightful shower of bones fell from the sky. The weapons of the Kuru warriors seemed to be ablaze, their standards trembled, and their animals, O monarch, shed copious tears. These and many other terrible and awful portents appeared for the destruction of the Kurus. Stupefied by destiny, none of them regarded those portents at all. Beholding the Suta's son setting out, all the rulers of men in the Kaurava army cried victory to him. The Kauravas regarded the Pandavas to have been already vanquished. That slayer of hostile heroes, that foremost of car warriors, viz. Vyakatana, as he stayed in his car recollecting the death of Bhishma and Drona, blazed up with splendor like the sun or fire. Reflecting on the mighty feats of Partha, and burning with self-conceit and pride, and blazing with wrath and breathing long and hard, he addressed Shulya and said these words, when stationed on my car and armed with my bow, I would not take fright at Indra, himself armed with the thunder and excited with wrath. Beholding those great heroes headed by Bhishma lying on the field of battle, do not feel any anxiety. Seeing even the faultless Bhishma and Drona, equal unto Indra and Vishnu, those crushers of foremost of cars and steeds and elephants, those heroes that were unslayable, slain by the foe, I do not still experience any fear in this battle. Acquainted with mighty weapons, and himself the foremost of Brahmanas, why, indeed, did not the preceptor slay in battle all foes, seeing them destroy the mightiest of our kings with their drivers and elephants and cars? Remembering that Drona in great battle, I tell you truly, listen to me, ye Kurus, there is none amongst you, save myself, that is competent to bear the advancing Arjuna, that warrior who resembles death himself in his fiercest form. In Drona were the skills attendant on practice, and might, and bravery, and the highest of weapons and policy. when even that high-souled one had to succumb to death, I regard all the others of our army, strengthless and on the point of death. In this world I do not find anything, even on reflection, to be stable, in consequence of the inevitable connection of acts. When the preceptor himself is dead, who then will indulge in the certain belief that he will live till even today's sunrise? When the preceptor was thus slain by the enemy in battle, without doubt weapons, ordinary and celestial, and might and prowess, and achievements and wise policy, are not able to compass the happiness of man. In energy Drona was equal to fire or the sun, in prowess he resembled Vishnu or Purandara, in policy he was equal to Brihaspati or Usana, irresistible as he was, weapons could not yet protect him. When our women and children are weeping and uttering loud wails, when the valour of the Dhritarashtras had been defeated, I know it, O Shaulya, that it is I who am to fight. Proceed therefore against the army of our enemies. Who else, save myself, will be able to bear those troops amongst whom are stationed the royal son of Bandu firm in truth, and Bhimasena and Arjuna, and Satyaki, and the twins? Therefore, O ruler of the Madras, proceed quickly, in this battle, towards the Panchalas, the Pandavas, and the Srinjayas. Encountering them in battle, either I will slay them, or myself to Yama's presence by the path taken by Drona. Do not think, O Shaulya, that I will not go into the very midst of those heroes. These intestine dissensions cannot be tolerated by me. Without seeking to tolerate them, I will even follow in the wake of Drona. Wise or ignorant, when his period is run out, everybody is equally regarded by the destroyer. No one can escape. O learned one, for this, I will proceed against the Pathas. I am unable to transgress my destiny. The son of Vichitravirya's son is, O king, always engaged in doing me good. For the accomplishment of his purpose, I will cast away my life breaths that are so dear, and this body that is so difficult of being cast away. This foremost of cars covered with tiger skins, with axle producing no sound, equipped with a golden seat endued with trivenu made of silver, and unto which are yoked these foremost of steeds, Rama gave unto me. Behold, also, O Shaulya, these beautiful bows, these standards, these maces, these shafts of fierce forms, this blazing sword, this mighty weapon, this white conch of fierce and loud blare. Riding upon this car decked with banners, its wheels producing a rattle deep as that of the thunder, having white steeds yoked unto it, and adorned with excellent quivers, I will, putting forth my might, slay in battle that bull among car warriors, Arjuna. If death himself, that universal consumer, were to protect with vigilance the son of Bandu in battle, I would still encounter him in fight, and either slay him or myself go to Yama's presence following Bhishma. If Yama, Varuna, Kuvara, and Vasava, with all their followers coming hither, unitedly protect the son of Bandu in this great battle, what need of many words? I will still vanquish him with them. Sanjaya continued, hearing these words of the bragging Kana, who was exceedingly delighted with the prospect of battle. The valiant king of the Madras, deriding him, laughed aloud, and gave him the following reply for checking him. Shaulya said, Forbear, forbear, O Kana, from such bragging. Thou art in transports of delight, and sayest what thou shouldst never say. Where is Dhananjaya, that foremost of men, and where again art thou, O lowest of men? Who else, save Arjuna, could take away the younger sister of Keshava, that foremost of all persons, having forcibly agitated the home of the Yadas that was protected by the younger brother of Indra, and that resembled heaven itself, that is guarded by the chief of celestials? What man save Arjuna, who is endued with prowess that is equal to the prowess of the chief of the celestials, could on the occasion of the dispute caused by the slaughter of an animal, summon Bava the Lord of Lords, the creator of the worlds, to battle. For the sake of honoring Agni, Jaya had vanquished Asuras and gods and great snakes and men and birds and Bishaka and Yakshas and Rakshasas with his shafts and gave unto that god the food he had desired. Dost thou remember, O Kana, the occasion when, slaughtering those foes in large numbers with his excellent shafts endued with the effulgence of the sun, Fulgana liberated Dhritarashtra's son himself among the Kuras? Dost thou remember the occasion when, thyself having been the first to fly away, the quarrelsome sons of Dhritarashtra were liberated by the Pandavas after the latter had defeated those rangers of the skies, the Gandharvas headed by Citraratha? On the occasion also of the seizure of Virata's kine, the Kauravas, swelling with numbers in respect of both men and animals, and having the preceptor and the preceptor's son and Bhishma amongst them, were vanquished by that foremost of men. Why, O son of Suta, dost thou not vanquish Arjuna then? For thy destruction another excellent battle has now presented itself. If thou dost not fly away from fear of thy enemy, know, O Suta's son, that as soon as thou goest to battle thou wilt be slain. Sanjaya continued, when the ruler of the Madras was most heartily engaged in addressing these harsh speeches to Kana and uttering these praises of the latter's foe, that scorcher of foes, viz., the commander of the Kuru army, excited with rage, said these words unto the Madra king. Kana said, Let it be so, let it be so. Why, however, dost thou indulge in Arjuna's praises? A battle is about to ensue between myself and him. If he vanquishes me in fight, then will these thy praises be regarded as well uttered. Sanjaya continued, the ruler of the Madras said, Let it be so, and gave no reply. When Kana, from desire of fight, addressed Sholya, saying, Proceed. Then that great car warrior, having white steeds yoked unto his vehicle and owning Sholya as his charioteer, proceeded against his foes, slaying large numbers in battle along his way, like the sun destroying the darkness. Indeed, on that car covered with tiger skins and having white steeds yoked unto it, Kana proceeded with a cheerful heart, and beholding the army of the Pandavas, speedily inquired after Dhananjaya. 38. Sanjaya said after Kana, gladdening thy army, had set out for battle, he spoke unto every Pandava soldier that he met with, even these words, unto him that will today point out the high Dhananjaya of white steeds to me, I will give whatever wealth he desires. If having got it he does not become satisfied, I shall in addition give him, him that will discover Arjuna to me, a cartload of jewels and gems. If that does not satisfy the person who discovers Arjuna to me, I will give him a century of kine with as many vessels of brass for milking those animals. I will give 100 foremost of villages unto the person that discovers Arjuna to me. I will also give him that shows Arjuna to me a number of long-trussed damsels of black eyes and a car unto which shall be yoked white mules. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I shall give him another foremost of cars, made of gold, and having 6 bulls yoked unto it that shall be as large as elephants. I shall also give unto him 100 damsels decked with ornaments, with collars of gold, fair complexioned and accomplished in singing and dancing. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I shall give him 100 elephants, 100 villages and 100 cars, and 10,000 steeds of the foremost of breed, fat, docile, endued with many excellent qualities, capable of dragging cars and well trained. I shall also give to the person that discovers Arjuna to me 400 kine, each with golden horns and her calf. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I shall make him a more valuable gift, viz., 500 steeds, adorned with trappings of gold and decked with jeweled ornaments. I shall also give 18 other steeds of great docility. I shall also give the person that discovers Arjuna to me a bright car made of gold and adorned with diverse ornaments and having foremost of Kambawa steeds yoked unto it. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I shall make him a more valuable gift, viz., 600 elephants, with chains of gold around their necks, and covered with housings of gold, born in the western shores of the ocean, and trained by elephant trainers. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I shall make him a more valuable gift, viz., 14 shire villages, teeming with people, full of wealth, situated in the proximity of forests and rivers, free from all sorts of danger, well furnished with other necessaries, and worthy of being enjoyed by kings. To him that will discover Dhananjaya to me, I shall also give 100 female slaves, with golden collars, belonging to the country of the Magadhas, and a very youthful age. If that does not satisfy the person that discovers Arjuna to me, I will make him a more valuable gift, that, indeed, which he himself will solicit. Sons, wives and articles of pleasure and enjoyment that I have, these all I shall give him if he desires them. Indeed, unto him who discovers Keshava and Arjuna to me, I shall, after slaying those two, give all the wealth that may be left by them. Having uttered those diverse speeches in that battle, Karna blew his excellent conch, sea-born and producing a sweet blare. Hearing these words of Suta's son that were suitable to his disposition, Duryodhana, O king, with all his followers became filled with joy. At that juncture the beat of cymbals and drums and leonine shouts, and grunts of elephants with the sounds of diverse musical instruments, arose there, O king, among the Kaurava troops, O bull among men. The shouts also of warriors filled with joy arose there. When their Kaurava troops were thus filled with joy, the ruler of the Madras, laughing in scorn, said these words unto that grinder of foes, viz., the son of Radha, that mighty Ka warrior who was about to plunge into that ocean of battle and who was indulging in such vain bragging. 39. Surely I said, do not, O Suta's son, give away to any man a golden car with 6 bulls of elephantine proportions. Thou wilt obtain a sight of Dhananjaya today. From foolishness thou art giving away wealth as if thou wert the lord of treasures. Without any trouble, however, O son of Radha, thou wilt behold Dhananjaya today. Thou art for giving away this wealth like a senseless person, but thou seest not the demerits attaching to those gifts that are made to undeserving persons. With that large wealth which thou art desirous of giving away, thou art certainly able to perform many sacrifices. Therefore, O Suta's son, do thou perform those sacrifices. As regards thy desire, entertained from folly, that is surely vain. I have never heard of a couple of lions having been overthrown by a fox. Thou seekest what should never be sought by thee. It seems that thou hast no friends for forbidding thee that art speedily falling into a blazing fire. Thou art unable to discriminate between what thou shouldst do and what thou shouldst not. Without doubt thy period is full. What man desirous of living would utter speeches that are so incoherent and undeserving of being listened to? This thy endeavour is like that of a person desirous of crossing the ocean by the aid of only his 2 arms after having attached to his neck a heavy stone, or of one desirous of leaping down from the summit of a mountain. If thou art desirous of winning what is for thy good, fight with Dhananjaya, well protected from within thy arrayed division, and aided by all thy warriors. I say this to thee for the good of Dhritarashtra's son, and not from any ill will to thee. If thou hast any wish for preserving thy life, then accept the words spoken by me. Karna said, relying on the might of my own arms, I seek Arjuna in battle. Thou, however, that art a foe with the face of a friend desirest to frighten me, No person shall deter me from this resolution, not even Indra himself uplifting his thunder. What then need be said of a mortal? Sanjaya continued, at the conclusion of these words of Karna, Shaulya, the ruler of the Madras, desirous of provoking Karna exceedingly, said these words in reply, when keen-pointed shafts winged with kanka feathers, shot by Falguna of mighty arms and impelled from his bowstring and sped with all his energy will seek thee, then wilt thou lament thy encounter with that hero. When Patha, called also save the Arsasi, taking up his celestial bow, will scorch their Kuru army and afflict thee exceedingly with keen shafts, then, O suitor's son, wilt thou repent of thy folly. As a child lying on the lap of its mother seeks to seize the moon, even so dost thou from folly seek to vanquish the resplendent Arjuna stationed on his car. In desiring, O Gana, to fight today with Arjuna of keen-edged feats, thou art for rubbing all thy limbs against the keen edges of a trident. This thy challenge of Arjuna, O suitor's son, is like that of a foolish young little deer of activity challenging a huge lion excited with wrath. Do not, O suitor's son, challenge that prince of mighty energy like a fox gratified with meat in the forest challenging the maned monarch of the forest. Do not be destroyed, encountering Arjuna. Thou, O Gana, challengest Ananjaya, the son of Pritha, even like a hare challenging a mighty elephant with tusks large as plough shafts, and with the juice issuing out of its mouth and rent cheeks. From folly thou art piercing, with a piece of wood, the black cobra of virulent poison excited to fury within its hole, in desiring to fight with Patha. Endued with little understanding, thou, O Gana, disregarding that lion among men, viz., the son of Pandu, yellest at him, like a jackal that, disregarding a maned lion excited with wrath, yells at him. As a snake, for its own destruction, challenges that foremost of birds, viz., Vinata's son, possessed of beautiful plumage and great activity, even so dost thou, O Gana, challenged Ananjaya the son of Pandu. Thou desirest to cross without a raft the terrible ocean, the receptacle of all the waters, with its mountain waves and teeming with aquatic animals, when at its height at the rise of the moon. O Gana, thou challengest Ananjaya, the son of Pritha, to battle even like a calf challenging a smiting bull of keen horns and neck thick as a drum. Like a frog croaking at a terrible and mighty cloud yielding copious showers of rain, thou croakest at Arjuna, who is even like Parjanya among men. As a dog from within the precincts of the house of his master barks at a forest-roaming tiger, even so, O Gana, thou barkest at Dhananjaya, the tiger among men. A jackal, O Gana, residing in the forest in the midst of hares, regardeth himself a lion till he actually sees a lion. Even so, O son of Radha, thou regardest thyself a lion, for thou dost not behold that repressor of foes, that tiger among men, viz., Ananjaya. Thou regardest thyself a lion till thou beholdest the two Krishnas stationed on the same car like Surya and Chandramas. As long as thou dost not hear the twang of Gandharva in great battle, so long art thou able to do what thou pleasest. Beholding Patha, causing the 10 points of the compass to resound with the roar of his car and the twang of his bow, and beholding him roaring like a tiger, thou wilt become a jackal. Thou art always a jackal, and Ananjaya always a lion. O fool, in consequence of thy envy and hatred for heroes, thou always seemest to be like a jackal. As a mouse and a car art each other in strength, or a dog and a tiger, a fox and a lion, or a hare and an elephant, as falsehood and truth, as poison and nectar, even so art thou in Patha known to all by your respective deeds. 40. Sanjaya said, thus rebuked by Shaulya of immeasurable energy, the son of Radha, feeling the propriety of his rebuker's name in consequence of his wordy darts, and becoming filled with rage, answered him thus. Kana said, the merits of meritorious men, O surely unknown to them that are themselves meritorious, but not to them that are destitute of merit. Thou, however, art destitute of every merit. How then canst thou judge of merit and demerit? The mighty weapons of Arjuna, his wrath, his energy, his bow, his shafts, and the prowess also of that high-souled hero are, O surely, well known to me. So also, O surely, thou dost not know, so as well as I myself, the greatness of Krishna, that dwell among the lords of earth. But knowing my own energy as also that of Pandu's son, I challenge him to battle. O surely, I do not act like an insect in respect of a blazing fire. I have this shaft, O surely, of keen mouth, blood drinking, lying alone within one quiver, equipped with wings, well steeped in oil and well adorned. It layeth amid sandal dust, worshipped by me for long years. Partaking of the nature and form of a snake, it is poisonous and fierce and capable of killing large numbers of men and steeds and elephants of terrible form, and exceedingly awful. It is capable of piercing coats of mail and bones. Inspired with wrath, I may pierce even the mighty mountains of Mari with it. That shaft I will never shoot at any other person save Fulgana or Krishna, the son of Devaki. In this I tell thee the truth. Listen to it. With that shaft, O surely, I will, inspired with rage, fight with Vasudeva and Ananjaya. That would be a feat worthy of me. Of all the heroes in the Vrishani race, it is Krishna in whom prosperity is always established. Among all the sons of Pandu, it is Partha in whom victory is always established. Those two tigers among men, stationed together on the same car, will advance against my single self for battle. Thou shalt, O surely, behold today the nobility of my lineage. Those two cousins, one of whom is the son of the aunt and the other the son of the maternal uncle, those two invincible warriors, thou shalt see, will be slain by me, with one shaft, and will look like two pearls strung together in the same string. Arjuna's Gandhiva and the ape-bearing banner, and Krishna's discus and the Garuda-bearing banner, inspire with fear only those that are timid. To me, however, O surely, they are causes of delight. Thou art a fool, of evil disposition, and unskilled in the ways of great battle. Overcome with terror, thou utterest these ravings. Or, thou art praising them for some reason not known to me. Having slain those two first, I shall then slay thee today with all thy kinsmen. Born in a sinful country thou art wicked-souled and mean, and a wretch amongst Kshatriyas. Being a friend, why dost thou, like an enemy, frighten me with these praises of the two Krishnas? Either they too will slay me today or I will slay them too. Knowing as I do my own might, I do not cherish any fear of the two Krishnas. 1,000 Vasudevas and hundreds of the Fulganas, I shall, single-handed, slay. Hold thy tongue, O thou that art born in a sinful country. Hear from me, O surely, the sayings, already passed into proverbs, that men, young and old, and women, and persons arrived in course of their listless wanderings, generally utter, as if those sayings formed part of their studies, about the wicked Madrakas. Brahmanas also duly narrated the same things formerly in the courts of kings. Listening to those sayings attentively, O fool, thou mayst forgive or rejoin. The Madraka is always a hater of the friends. He that hateth us is a Madraka. There is no friendship in the Madraka who is mean in speech and is the lowest of mankind. The Madraka is always a person of wicked soul, is always untruthful and crooked. It hath been heard by us that till the moment of death the Madrakas are wicked. Amongst the Madrakas, the sire, the son, the mother-in-law, the brother, the grandson, and other kinsmen, companions, strangers arrived at their homes, slaves male and female, mingle together. The women of the Madrakas mingle, at their own will, with men known and unknown, of unrighteous conduct, and subsisting upon fried and powdered corn and fish, in their homes. They laugh and cry, having drunk spirits and eaten beef. They sing incoherent songs and mingle lustfully with one another, indulging the while in the freest speeches. How then can virtue have a place amongst the Madrakas, who are arrogant and notorious for all kinds of evil acts? No one should make friends with a Madraka or provoke hostilities with him. In the Madraka land there is no friendship. The Madraka is always the dirt of humanity. Amongst the Madrakas all acts of friendship are lost as purity amongst the Gandharakas, and the libations poured in a sacrifice in which the king is himself the sacrificer and priest. Then again, it is truly seen that wise men treat a person bit by a scorpion and affected by its poison, even with these words, as a Brahmana that assists at the religious ceremonies of a Shudra suffereth degradation, as one that hateth Brahmanas always suffereth degradation, even so a person by making an alliance with the Madrakas becometh fallen. As there is no friendship in the Madraka, so, O scorpion, thy poison is naught. With these mantras of the Atharvana I have duly performed the rite of exorcism. Knowing this, O learned one, hold thy tongue, or listen to something further that I will say. Those women that, intoxicated by spirits, cast off their robes and dance, those women that are not attached to particular individuals in the matter of intercourse, and that they do as they please without owning any restrictions, I say, that being as thou art the child of one of those women, how canst thou, O Madraka, be a fit person for declaring the duties of men? Those women that live and answer calls of nature like camels and asses, being as thou art the child of one of those sinful and shameless creatures, how canst thou wish to declare the duties of men? When a Madraka woman is solicited for the gift of a little quantity of vinegar, she scratches her hips and without being desirous of giving it, says these cruel words, "Let no man ask any vinegar of me that is so dear to me. I would give him my son, I would give him my husband, but vinegar I would not give." The young Madraka maidens, we hear, are generally very shameless and hairy and gluttonous and impure. These and many other things of a like nature, in respect of all their acts, from the crown of their heads to the tip of their toes, are capable of being asserted of them by myself and others. How, indeed, would the Madrakas and the Sindhu Saviras know anything of duty, being born, as they are, in a sinful country, being mlechers in their practices, and being totally regardless of all duties? It hath been heard by us that even this is the highest duty of a Kshatriya, viz., that slain in battle, he should lie down on the earth, applauded by the righteous. That I should lay down my life in this clash of arms is my foremost wish, desirous as I am of heaven through death. I am also the dear friend of the intelligent son of Dhritarashtra. For his sake are my life breaths and whatever wealth I have. As regards thyself, O thou that art born in a sinful country, it is evident that thou hast been tampered with by the Pandavas, since thou behavest towards us in everything like a foe. Like a righteous man that is incapable of being led astray by atheists, surely I am incapable of being dissuaded from this battle by hundreds of persons like thee. Like a deer, covered with sweat, thou art at liberty to weep or thirst. Observant as I am of the duties of a Kshatriya, I am incapable of being frightened by thee. I recall to my mind the end, declared unto me in past times by my preceptor Rama, of those lions among men, those returning heroes, that laid down their lives in battle, prepared for rescuing the Kauravas and slaying our foes. Know that I am now determined to imitate the excellent behavior of Pauravas. I do not, O ruler of the Madrakas, behold the person in the three worlds that can, I think, dissuade me from this purpose. Forbear to speak, knowing all this. Why dost thou rave in such a way from fear? O wretch amongst the Madrakas, I shall not now slay thee and present thy carcass as an offering to carnivorous creatures. From regard for a friend, O Shaulia, for the sake of Dhritarashtra's son, and for avoiding blame, for these 3 reasons, thou still livest. If, O ruler of the Madras, thou speakest such words again, I shall then crush thy head with my mace that is as hard as the thunder. People will today see or hear, O thou that art born in a sinful country, either that the 2 Krishnas have slain Karna or that Karna has slain the 2 Krishnas. Having said these words, the son of Radha, O monarch, once more addressed the king of the Madras, fearlessly saying, Proceed, proceed. 41. Sanjaya said, hearing, O sire, these words of Radha's son who delighted in battle, Shaulia once more addressed Karna, citing an example. I am born in the race of men who performed great sacrifices, who never retreated from battle, who were kings whose coronal locks underwent the sacred bath. I am also myself devoted to the practice of virtue. Thou, O Vrisha, seemest to be like one that is intoxicated with spirits. For all that, I will, from friendship, seek to cure thy erring and intoxicated self. Listen, O Gana, to this simile of the crow that I am about to narrate. Having heard it, thou mayest do what thou choosest, O thou that art destitute of intelligence and that art a wretch of thy race. I do not, O Gana, remember the slightest fault in me for which, O thou of mighty arms, thou mayst desire to slay my innocent self. I must tell thee what is for thy good and what is for thy ill, acquainted as I am with both, especially as I am the driver of thy car and desirous of the good of King Duryodhana. What land is level and what not, the strength or weakness of the warrior, on my vehicle, the fatigue and faintness, at all times, of the steeds and the warrior, I am driving, a knowledge of the weapons that are available, the cries of animals and birds, what would be heavy for the steeds and what exceedingly heavy for them, the extraction of arrows and the curing of wounds which weapons counteract which, the several methods of battle, and all kinds of omens and indications, I who am so nearly connected with this car, being none else than its driver, should be familiar with. For this, O Gana, I narrate this instance to thee once more. There lived on the other side of the ocean of Shire who had abundance of wealth and corn. He performed sacrifices, made liberal gifts, was peaceful, devoted to the duties of his own order, and pure in habits and mind. He had many sons whom he loved, and was kind unto all creatures. He lived fearlessly in the dominions of a king that was guided by virtue. There was a crow that lived on the refuse of the dishes set before those well-behaved young children of the Shire. Those Shire children always gave the crow meat and curds, and milk, and sugared milk with rice, and honey, and butter. Thus fed with the refuse of their dishes by the young children of that Shire, the crow became arrogant and came to disregard all birds that were equal to him or even superior. It chanced that one certain swans of cheerful hearts, of great speed and capable of going everywhere at will and equal unto Garuda himself in a range and speed of flight, came to that side of the ocean. The Shire boys, beholding those swans, addressed the crow and said, O ranger of the skies, thou art superior to all winged creatures. Deceived by those children of little understanding, that viviparous creature from folly and pride, regarded their words to be true. Proud of the refuse of the children's dishes upon which he fed, the crow then, alighting in the midst of those swans capable of traversing great distances, desired to inquire as to who amongst them was their leader. The foolish crow at last challenged him amongst those birds of tireless wings whom he regarded their leader, saying, Let us compete in flight. Hearing those words of the raving crow, the swans that had assembled there, those foremost of birds endued with great strength, began to laugh. The swans then, that were capable of going everywhere at will, addressed the crow, saying, "We are swans, having our abode in the Manasa lake. We traverse the whole earth, and amongst winged creatures we are always applauded for the length of the distances we traverse. Being, as thou art, only a crow, how canst thou, O fool, challenge a swan endued with might, capable of going everywhere at will, and doing large distances in course of his flight? Tell us, O crow, how thou shalt fly with us." The boastful crow, in consequence of the foolishness of his species, repeatedly finding fault with the words of that swan, at last gave this answer. The crow said, "I shall without doubt fly displaying 101 different kinds of motion, doing every 100 yojanas in a separate and beautiful kind of motion. I shall display all those motions, rising up, and swooping down, and whirling around, and coursing straight, and proceeding gently, and advancing steadily, and performing the diverse courses up and receding back, and soaring high, and darting forward and soaring upwards with fierce velocity, and once more proceeding gently and then proceeding with great impetuosity, and once again swooping down and whirling around and advancing steadily, and rising up by the jerks, and soaring straight, and once more falling down and wheeling in a circle and rushing proudly, and divers other kinds of motion, these all I shall display in the sight of all you. Ye shall then witness my strength. With one of these different kinds of motion I shall presently rise into the sky. Point out duly, ye swans, by which of these motions I shall course through space. Settling the kind of motion amongst yourselves, you will have to course with me. Adopting all those different motion, ye shall have to course with me through supportless space." The crow having said these words, one of the swans addressed him, "Listen, O son of Radha, to the words that the swan said." The swan spoke, "Thou, O crow, wilt doubtless fly the 101 different kinds of flight. I shall, however, fly in that one kind of motion that all other birds know, for I do not, O crow, know any other. As regards thee, O thou of red eyes, fly thou in any kind of course that thou likest." At these words, those crows that had been assembled laughed aloud, saying, "How will the swan with only one kind of flight get the better of 100 different kinds of flight?" Then those two, viz., the swan and the crow, rose into the sky, challenging each other. Capable of going everywhere at will, the swan proceeded in one kind of motion, while the crow coursed in 100 different kinds. And the swan flew and the crow also flew, causing each other to wonder at his skill, and each speaking highly of his own achievements. Beholding the diverse kinds of flight at successive instants of time, the crows that were there were filled with great joy and began to call more loudly. The swans also laughed in mockery, uttering many remarks disagreeable to the crows, and they began to soar and alight repeatedly, here and there, and they began to come down and rise up from tree-tops and the surface of the earth, and they uttered diverse cries indicative of their victory. The swan, however, with that one kind of slow motion, with which he was familiar, began to traverse the skies. For a moment, therefore, O sire, he seemed to yield to the crow. The crows, at this, disregarding the swans, said these words, "That swan amongst you which has soared into the sky, is evidently yielding." Hearing these words, the soaring swan flew westwards with great velocity to the ocean, that abode of Makaras. Then fear entered the heart of the crow, who became almost senseless at not seeing any island or trees whereon to perch when tired. And the crow thought within his heart as to where he should alight when tired, upon that vast expanse of water. The ocean, being as it is the abode of countless creatures, is irresistible. Dwelt in by hundreds of monsters, it is grander than space. Nothing can exceed it in depth, O Suta's son. Men know, O Gana, that the waters of the ocean are as limitless as space. for the extent of its waters, O Gunner, what is a crow to it? The swan, having traversed a great distance in a moment, looked back at the crow, and, though capable, could not leave him behind. Having transgressed the crow, the swan cast his eyes on him and waited, thinking, let the crow come up. The crow then, exceedingly tired, came up to the swan. Beholding him succumbing, and about to sink, and desirous of rescuing him in remembrance of the practices of good folks, the swan addressed him in these words, Thou hadst repeatedly spoken of many kinds of flight while speaking on the subject. Thou wouldst not speak of this, thy present motion, because of its having been a mystery to us? What is the name of this kind of flight, O crow, that thou hast now adopted? Thou touchest the waters with thy wings and beak repeatedly. Which amongst those diverse kinds of flight is this, O crow, that thou art now practicing? Come, come, quickly, O crow, for I am waiting for thee. Surely, continued, exceedingly afflicted, and touching the water with his wings and beak, O thou of wicked soul, the crow, beheld in that state by the swan, addressed the latter. Indeed, not seeing the limit of that watery expanse and sinking down in fatigue, and exhausted with the effort of his flight, the crow said unto the swan, We are crows, we wander hither and thither, crying caw, caw. O swan, I seek thy protection, placing my life breaths at thy hands. Oh, take me to the shores of the ocean with the wings and beak. The crow, very much fatigued, suddenly fell down. Beholding him fallen upon the waters of the ocean with a melancholy heart, the swan, addressing the crow who was on the point of death, said these words, Remember, O crow, what thou hadst said in praise of thyself. The words even were that thou wouldst course through the sky in 101 different kinds of flight. Thou, therefore, that wouldst fly 100 different kinds of flight, thou that art superior to me, alas, why then art thou tired and fallen down on the ocean? Overcome with weakness, the crow then, casting his eyes upwards at the swan, and seeking to gratify him, replied, saying, Proud of the remains of others' dishes upon which I fed, I had, O swan, regarded myself as the equal of Garuda and disregarded all crows and many other birds. I now, however, seek thy protection and place my life breaths at thy hands. Oh, take me to the shores of some island. If, O swan, I can, O Lord, return in safety to my own country, I will never again disregard anybody. O rescue me now from this calamity. Him that said so and was so melancholy and weeping and deprived of senses, him that was sinking in the ocean, uttering cries caw, caw, him so drenched by the water and so disgusting to look at and trembling with fear, the swan, without a word, took up with his feet, and slowly caused him to ride on his back. Having caused the crow whose senses had deserted him to ride upon his back, the swan quickly returned to that island whence they had both flown, challenging each other. Placing down the stranger of the sky on dry land and comforting him, the swan, fleet as the mind, proceeded to the region he desired. Thus was that crow, fed on the remains of others' dinners, vanquished by the swan. The crow, then, casting off the pride of might and energy, adopted a life of peace and quiet. Indeed, even as that crow, fed upon the remains of the dinners of the Vishaya children, disregarded his equals and superiors, so dost thou, O Gunner, that art fed by the sons of Dhritarashtra upon the remains of their dishes, disregard all thy equals and superiors. Why didst thou not slay Partha at Virata's city when thou hadst the advantage of being protected by Drona and Drona's son and Gripa and Bhishma and the other Kauravas? They were, like a pack of jackals defeated by a lion. Ye all were defeated with great slaughter by the diadem-decked Arjuna. What became of your prowess? Beholding also thy brother slain by save the Arsasi, in the very sight of the Kuru heroes, it was thou that didst fly away first. by the skirts also of the Dvaitya lake, O Gana, when thou wert assailed by the Gandharvas, it was thou that, deserting all the Kuras, didst first run away. Having vanquished in battle the Gandharvas headed by Citrasana, with great slaughter, it was Partha, O Gana, that liberated Duryodhana with his wife. Rama himself, O Gana, before the kings in the Kuru assembly spake of the great prowess of both Partha and Keshava. Thou didst frequently hear the words of Drona and Bhishma, speaking in the presence of all the kings, that the two Krishnas are unslayable. I have told thee a little only regarding those matters in which Dhananjaya is superior to thee, like the Brahmana who is superior to all created beings. Soon wilt thou see, stationed on that foremost of cars, the son of Vasudeva and son of Kunti and Pandu. As the crow, in the story, acting with intelligence, had sought the protection of the swan, so do thou seek the protection of him of Vrishani's race, and of Pandu's son Ananjaya. When thou shalt in battle behold Vasudeva and Ananjaya, those two endues with great prowess, stationed together on the same car, thou shalt not then, O Gana, utter such speeches. When Partha will, with hundreds of arrows, quell thy pride, then wilt thou behold the difference between thyself and Ananjaya. Those two best of persons are celebrated among the gods, the Asuras and human beings. Thou that art a firefly, do not, from folly, think disrespectfully of those two resplendent luminaries. Like the sun and moon, Keshava and Arjuna are celebrated for their resplendence. Thou, however, art like a firefly among men. O learned one, O son of Asuta, do not think disrespectfully of Achyuta and Arjuna. Those two high-souled persons are lions among men. Forbear indulging in such boasts. 42. Sanjaya said, the high-souled son of Adrata, having listened and convinced to these words of the ruler of the Madras, addressed Shaulya, saying, that which Vasudeva and Arjuna are is well known to me. The skill of Sorin in the management of cars, and the might and the high weapons of Arjuna, the son of Bandu, are well known to me at this hour. Thou, however, O Shaulya, hast no ocular proof of those matters. I shall fearlessly fight with the two Krishnas, those two foremost of all wielders of weapons. The curse, however, of Rama, that best of regenerate persons, paineth me greatly today. I dwelt, in the disguise of a Brahmana, with Rama in former days, desirous of obtaining celestial weapons from him. On that occasion, O Shaulya, the chief of the gods, wishing to benefit Falguna, caused an obstacle, by approaching my thigh and piercing it, having assumed the dire form of a worm. When my preceptor slept, having laid his head thereon, that worm, approaching my thigh, began to pierce it through. In consequence of the piercing of my thigh, a pool of thick blood flowed from my body. For fear of disturbing the slumber of my preceptor, I did not move my limb. Awaking, the Brahmana, however, beheld what has taken place. Witnessing my patience, he addressed me, saying, Thou art never a Brahmana. Tell me truly who thou art. I then, O Shaulya, truly informed him of myself, saying that I was a Sutta. Hearing my words, the great ascetic, his heart filled with rage, cursed me, saying, in consequence of the deception, O Sutta, by which thou hast obtained this weapon, it will never, at the time of need, when the hour of thy death comes, occur to thy memory. Brahma cannot certainly reside in one that is not a Brahmana. I have forgotten that great weapon in this fierce and terrible battle. He amongst the Bharatas, O Shaulya, who is accomplished, who is an effectual smiter, who is universal destroyer, and who is exceedingly terrible, viz. Arjuna, that mighty crusher, I think, will burn many foremost of Kshatriyas. Know, however, O Shaulya, that I will slay in battle that fierce bowman, that foremost of warriors, that hero endued with activity, that terrible person whose energy is unbearable, that warrior whose promises are accomplished, that son of Pandu, viz. Dhananjaya. I have that weapon, at least, under my control today, with which I will be able to destroy large numbers of foes. I will slay in battle that scorcher of enemies, that mighty warrior accomplished in weapons, that fierce bowman of immeasurable energy, that cruel and terrible hero, that great resister of enemies, viz. Dhananjaya. The immeasurable ocean, that lord of all waters, rusheth with fierce impetuosity for overwhelming innumerable creatures. The continent, however, holds and checks him. Today, in this world, I will resist in fight the son of Kunti, that foremost of all draws of the bowstring, while he will be engaged in ceaselessly shooting his countless shafts equipped with goodly wings, destructive of heroes, capable of penetrating into every limb and none of which becomes futile. Like the continent resisting the ocean, I will today resist that mightiest of the mighty, that great warrior possessing the highest weapons, that hero like unto the ocean's self of far-reaching arrows, fierce, and having shafts for his waves, while he will be engaged in overwhelming, hostile kings. Behold today the fierce battle I fight with him that hath no equal, I think, among men wielding the bow, and that would vanquish the very gods united with the Asuras. Exceedingly proud is that son of Pandu. Desirous of battle he will approach me with his mighty and superhuman weapons. Baffling his weapons with my own weapons in battle, I shall today overthrow that Partha with my own excellent shafts. Scorching his foes like the sun endued with fiery rays, and blazing with flame like that dispeller of the darkness, I shall, like a mass of clouds, completely shroud Dhananjaya today with my shafts. Like a cloud's extinguishing a blazing fire of great energy and smoke-mixed flames, that seems ready to consume the whole earth, I shall, with my showers of arrows, extinguish the son of Kunti in battle. With my broad-headed shafts I shall still the son of Kunti, that terrible snake of virulent poison, that is exceedingly difficult of being captured, that is endued with keen fangs, that is even like a blazing fire that flames up in wrath, and that always consumes his foes. Like him of that bearing the mighty, all-crushing, fierce and smiting god of wind, I shall, without moving, bear the angry and vindictive Dhananjaya. I shall resist in battle Dhananjaya, that foremost of all wielders of bows in the world, that hero in fight, that warrior who is always in the van and who is competent to meet all foes, that car warrior who is conversant with all car tracks. Today I shall fight in battle with that person who hath, I think, no equal among men wielding the bow and who conquered the entire earth. What other man desirous of saving his life, except myself, will fight with that Asi, who vanquished all creatures including the very gods in the country called Kandava. Arjuna is proud, his weapons strike deep, he is endued with great lightness of hands, he is conversant with steeds, he agitates vast hosts, he is regarded an iterator. Though such, I shall yet, with my sharp shafts, strike his head from off his trunk today. Oh, surely ever keeping death or victory in battle before me, I shall today fight with Dhananjaya. There is none else save myself that would on a single car fight with that Pandava who resembles the destroyer himself. I myself will gladly speak of the prowess of Fulgana in the midst of an assembly of Kshatriyas. Why, however, dost thou, a fool as thou art and of foolish understanding, speak to me of Fulgana's prowess? Thou art a doer of disagreeable deeds. Thou art cruel and mean and being thyself unforgiving, thou art a detractor of one that is forgiving. I can slay 100 persons like thee, but I forgive thee in consequence of my forgiving disposition, owing to the exigency of the times. Thou art of sinful deeds. Like a fool thou hast, for the sake of Pandu's son, rebuked me and told me many disagreeable things. crooked-hearted as thou art, thou hast said all these words unto me, that am of a sincere heart. Cursed art thou, for thou art an injurer of friends, of friends, because friendship is seven-paced. Terrible is the hour that is now passing. Duryodhana hath himself come to battle. I am solicitous of seeing his purposes achieved. Thou, however, art acting in such a way that it shows thee to have no friendship for the Kuru king. He is a friend who shows affection for another, who gladdens another, who makes himself agreeable to another, who protects another, who honors another, and who rejoices in the joys of another. I tell thee that I have all those attributes, and the king himself knows all this. He, on the other hand, that destroys, chastises, sharpens his weapons, injures, causes us to sigh, makes us cheerless, and wrongs us in diverse ways, is a foe. All these attributes are to be found in thee, and thou discoverest all of them in me. For the sake of Duryodhana, for the sake of doing what is agreeable to thee, for the sake of victory, for the sake of myself, and for the sake of God himself, I will with vigorous exertion fight with Partha and Vasudeva. Witness today my feats. Behold today my excellent weapons, my Brahmastra and other celestial weapons, as also those that are human. I will today slay that hero of fierce prowess, like an exceedingly infuriate elephant slaying an infuriate compeer. I shall, by my mind alone, hurl today at Partha, for my victory, that weapon of immeasurable energy, called the Brahmastra. Arjuna will never be able to escape that weapon, if only the wheels of my car do not sink into the earth in battle today. Know this, O Shaulya, that I would not take fright at Yama himself armed with his rod, or Varuna himself armed with his noose, or Kuvra himself armed with his mace, or Vasava himself armed with a thunderbolt, or at any other foe whatever that may approach for slaying me. Therefore, I have no fear from Partha, nor from Janardana. On the other hand, I shall encounter them both in today's destructive battle. Once on a time, while wandering for the sake of practicing weapons on my bow called Vijaya, O king, I had, by shooting many fierce shafts of terrible forms, heedlessly struck the calf of a Brahmana's homocow with one of those shafts, and unwillingly killed it while it was wandering in a solitary forest. The Brahmana then addressed me, saying, Since, becoming insensate, thou hast slain the offspring of my homocow, the wheel of thy car will sink into the earth, while at the time of battle fear will enter thy heart. From these words of the Brahmana I am experiencing great fear. These kings of the lunar race that all odds of other people's weal and woe offered to give that Brahmana 1,000 kine and 600 bovine bulls. With even such a gift, O Shaulya, the Brahmana would not be gratified, O ruler of the Madras. I was then for giving him 700 elephants of large tusks and many hundred of slaves, male and female. That foremost of Brahmana would not still be gratified. Collecting next full 14,000 kine, each black in hue, and having a white calf, I was still unable to obtain the grace of that best of Brahmana. A wealthy mansion full of every object of desire, in fact, whatever wealth I had, I wished to give him with due worship, but he refused to accept the gift. And to me then that had offended and that had begged so importunately for his pardon, the Brahmana said, That which, O Sutta, hath been uttered by me is sure to happen. It cannot be otherwise. A false speech would destroy creatures, and sin also would be mine. Therefore, for the preservation of virtue I do not venture to speak what is false. Do not, again, destroy the means of a Brahmana's support. There is none in the world that would be able to falsify my speech. Accept those words. It will be thy atonement for the sin of having slain a calf. Though rebuked by thee, still for friendship's sake, I have disclosed to thee all this. I know thee that art rebuking me thus. Be silent now, and hear what I will presently say. 43. Sanjaya said, that chastiser of foes, viz., the son of Radha, thus silencing the ruler of the Madras, once more addressed him, O monarch, saying these words, in answer to that which, O Shaulya, thou hast said unto me by way of instance. I tell thee that I am incapable of being frightened by thee in battle with thy words. If all the gods themselves with Vasava would fight with me, I would not still feel any fear. What need be said then of my fears from Pritha and Keshava? I am incapable of being frightened by means of words alone. He, O Shaulya, whom thou wouldest be able to frighten in battle is some other person, and not myself. Thou hast spoken many bitter words to me. Therein lieth the strength of a person that is low, incapable of speaking of my merits. Thou sayest many bitter things, O thou of wicked heart. Karna was never born, O Madraka, for fear in battle. On the other hand, I was born for displaying valor as also for achieving glory for my own self. For the sake of my friendship for thee, for my affection, and for thy being an ally, for these three reasons thou still livest, O Shaulya. Important is the task that has now to be done for King Dhritarashtra. That task, O Shaulya, depends on me. For this, thou livest a moment. Before this, I made a compact with thee that any disagreeable speeches thou mightest utter would be pardoned by me. That compact should be observed. It is for this that thou livest, O Madraka. Without 1,000 sailors I would vanquish my foes. He that injureth a friend is sinful. It is for this that thou livest for the present. 44. Shaulya said, these, O Gana, are ravings that thou utterest regarding the foe. As regards myself, without 1,000 Karnas I am able to vanquish the foe in battle. Sanjaya continued, and to the ruler of Madras, of harsh features, who was saying such disagreeable things unto Gana, the latter once more said words that were twice bitter. Karna said, listen with devoted attention to this, O ruler of the Madras, that was heard by me while it was recited in the presence of Dhritarashtra. In Dhritarashtra's abode the Brahmanas used to narrate the accounts of diverse delightful regions and many kings of ancient times. A foremost one among Brahmanas, venerable in years while reciting old histories, said these words, blaming the Vahikas and Madrakas. One should always avoid the Vahikas, those impure people that are out of the pale of virtue, and that live away from the Himavat and the Ganga and Sarasvati and Yamuna and Kurukshetra and the Sindhu and its 5 tributary rivers. I remember from the days of my youth that a slaughter ground for kine and a space for storing intoxicating spirits always distinguish the entrances of the abodes of the Vahika kings. On some very secret mission I had to live among the Vahikas. In consequence of such residence, the conduct of these people is well known to me. There is a town of the name of Sakala, a river of the name of Apaga, and a clan of the Vahikas known by the name of the Jatikas. The practices of these people are very censurable. They drink the liquor called gorda, and eat fried barley with it. They also eat beef with garlic. They also eat cakes of the flour mixed with meat, and boiled rice that is bought from others. Of righteous practices they have none. Their women, intoxicated with drink and divested of robes, laugh and dance outside the walls of the houses in cities, without garlands and unguents, singing while drunk obscene songs of diverse kinds that are as musical as the bray of the ass or the bleat of the camel. In intercourse they are absolutely without any restraint, and in all other matters they act as they like. Maddened with drink, they call upon one another, using many endearing epithets, addressing many drunken exclamations to their husbands and lords, the fallen women among the Vahikas, without observing restrictions even on sacred days, give themselves up to dancing. One of those wicked Vahikas, one that is, that lived amongst those arrogant women, who happened to live for some days in Kurujangala, burst out with cheerless heart, saying, "Alas, that Vahika, maiden of large proportions, dressed in thin blankets, is thinking of me, a Vahika lover, that is now passing his days in Kuru Jungla, at the hour of her going to bed." Crossing the Sut legend, the delightful Iravati, and arriving at my own country, when shall I cast my eyes upon those beautiful women with thick frontal bones, with blazing circlets of red arsenic on their foreheads, with streaks of jet-black collyrium on their eyes, and their beautiful forms attired in blankets and skins, and themselves uttering shrill cries? When shall I be happy, in the company of those intoxicated ladies, amid the music of drums and kettle drums and conchs sweet as the cries of asses and camels and mules? When shall I be amongst those ladies eating cakes of flour and meat and balls of pounded barley mixed with skimmed milk, in the forests, having many pleasant paths of Sami and Pilu and Karira? When shall I, amid my own countrymen, mustering in strength on the high roads, fall upon passengers, and snatching their robes and attires beat them repeatedly? What man is there that would willingly dwell, even for a moment, amongst the Vahikas that are so fallen and wicked, and so depraved in their practices? Even thus did that Brahmana describe the Vahikas of base behavior, a sixth of whose merits and demerits is thine, O Sholya. Having said this, that pious Brahman began once more to say what I am about to repeat respecting the wicked Vahikas. Listen to what I say. In the large and populous town of Saikala, a Rakshasa woman used to sing on every 14th day of the dark fortnight, in accompaniment with a drum. When shall I next sing the songs of the Vahikas in this Saikala town, having gorged myself with beef and drunk the Gauda liquor? When shall I again, decked in ornaments, and with those maidens and ladies of large proportions, gorge upon the large number of sheep and large quantities of pork and beef and the meat of fowls and asses and camels? They who do not eat sheep live in vain. Even thus, O Sholya, the young and old, among the inhabitants of Saikala, intoxicated with spirits, sing and cry. How can virtue be met with among such a people? Thou shouldst know this. I must, however, speak again to thee about what another Brahmana had said unto us in the Kuru court. There were forests of Bilas stand, and those 5 rivers flow, viz., the Satadru, the Vipasa, the Iravati, the Kandrabhaga, and the Vitasa, and which have the Sindhu for their 6th. There in those regions removed from the Himavat are the countries called by the name of the Aratas. Those regions are without virtue and religion. No one should go thither. The gods, the Pitras, and the Brahmanas never accept gifts from those that are fallen, or those that are begotten by Shudras on the girls of other castes, or the Vahikas who never perform sacrifices and are exceedingly irreligious. That learned Brahmana had also said in the Kuru court, the Vahikas, without any feelings of revulsion, eat of wooden vessels having deep stomachs and earthen plates, and vessels that have been licked by dogs and that are stained with pounded barley and other corn. The Vahikas drink the milk of sheep and camels and asses, and eat curds and other preparations from those different kinds of milk. Those degraded people number many bastards among them. There is no food and no milk that they do not take. The Arat Vahikas that are steeped in ignorance should be avoided. Thou shouldst know this, O Sholya. I must, however, again speak to thee about what another Brahmana had said unto me in the Kuru court. How can one go to heaven, having drunk milk in the town called Ugandhara, and resided in the place called Desayutasthala, and bathed in the spot called Beautilaya? There where the 5 rivers flow just after issuing from the mountains, there among the Arat Vahikas, no respectable person should dwell even for 2 days. There are 2 Pishaka named Vai and Hika in the river Vipasa. The Vahikas are the offspring of those 2 Pishaka. They are not creatures created by the Creator. Being of such low origin, how can they be conversant with the duties ordained in the scriptures? the Karashakas, the Mahashakas, the Kalingas, the Keralas, the Karkatikas, the Virukas, and other peoples of no religion, one should always avoid. Even thus did Rakshasa woman of gigantic hips speak unto a Brahmana who on a certain occasion went to that country for bathing in a sacred water and passed a single night there. The regions are called by the name of Aratas. The people residing there are called the Vahikas. The lowest of Brahmanas also are residing there from very remote times. They are without the Veda and without knowledge, without sacrifice and without the power to assist at others' sacrifices. They are all fallen, and many amongst them have been begotten by Shudras upon other people's girls. The gods never accept any gifts from them. The Prastalas, the Madras, the Gandharas, the Aratas, those called Kasas, the Vasatis, the Sindhas and the Sauviras are almost as blamable in their practices. 45. Kanna continued, Thou shouldst know all this, O Shaulya. I shall, however, again speak unto thee. Listen with close attention to what I say. Once on a time a Brahmana came to our house as a guest. Observing our practices, he became highly gratified and said unto us, I dwelt for a long time on a peak of the Himavat quite alone. Since then I have seen diverse countries following diverse religions. Never, however, have I seen all the people of a country act unrighteously. All the races I have met will admit that to be true religion which has been declared by persons conversant with the Vedas. Travelling through various countries following various religions, I at last, O king, came among the Vahikas. There I heard that one at first becomes a Brahmana and then he becomes a Kshatriya. Indeed, a Vahika would, after that, become a Vishya, and then a Shudra, and then a Barber. Having become a Barber, he would then again become a Brahmana. Returning to the status of a Brahmana, he would again become a slave. One person in a family becomes a Brahmana, all the others, falling off from virtue, act as they like. The Gandharas, the Madrakas, and the Vahikas of little understanding are even such. Having travelled through the whole world, I heard of these practices, destructive of virtue, of these sinful irregularities amongst the Vahikas. Thou shouldst know all this, O Shaulya. I shall, however, again speak to thee about those ugly words that another said unto me regarding the Vahikas. In former days a chaste woman was abducted by robbers, hailing from Mahabharata. Sinfully was she violated by them, upon which she cursed them, saying, Since ye have sinfully violated a helpless girl who am not without a husband, therefore, the women of your families shall all become unchaste. Ye lowest of men, never shall ye escape from the consequences of this dreadful sin. It is for this, O Shaulya, that the sisters, sons of the Aratas, and not their own sons, become their heirs. The Kauravas with the Panchalas, the Salwas, the Matsyas, the Naimishkas, the Koshalas, the Kasapondras, the Kalingas, the Magadhas, and the Siddhas who are all highly blessed, know what the eternal religion is. The wicked even of these various countries know what religion is. The Vahikas, however, live without righteousness. Beginning with the Matsyas, the residents of the Kuru and the Bankala countries, the Naimishas as well, and the other respectable peoples, the pious among all races are conversant with the eternal truths of religion. This cannot be said of the Madrakas and the crooked-hearted race that resides in the country of the 5 rivers. Knowing all these things, O king, hold thy tongue, O Shaulya, like one deprived of utterance, in all matters connected with religion and virtue. Thou art the protector and king of that people, and, therefore, the partaker of 6th part of their merits and demerits. Or perhaps, thou art the partaker of a 6th part of their demerits only, for thou never protectest them. A king that protects is a sharer in the merits of his subjects. Thou art not a sharer in their merits. In days of yore, when the eternal religion was reverenced in all countries, the grandsire, observing the practices of the country of the 5 rivers, cried fie on them. When even in the great age, Brahman had censured the practices of those fallen people of evil deeds who were begotten by Shudras on others' wives, what would you now say to men in the world? Even thus did the grandsire condemn the practices of the country of the 5 waters. When all people were observant of the duties of their respective orders, the grandsire had to find fault with these men. Thou shouldst know all this, O Sholya. I shall, however, again speak to thee. A Rakshasa of the name of Kalmashapada, while plunging in a tank, said, Eleemosynation is a Kshatriya's dirt, while the non-observance of vows is a Brahmana's dirt. The Vahikas are the dirt of the earth, and the Madra women are the dirt of the whole female sex. While sinking in the stream, a king rescued the Rakshasa. Asked by the former, the latter gave this answer. I will recite it to you. Listen to me. The Mlechas are the dirt of mankind. The oilmen are the dirt of the Mlechas. Eunuchs are the dirt of oilmen. They who avail of the priestly ministrations of Kshatriyas in their sacrifices are the dirt of eunuchs. The sin of those again that have the last named persons for their priests, also of the Madrakas, shall be thine if thou do not abandon me. Even this was declared by the Rakshasa to be the formula that should be used for curing a person possessed by a Rakshasa or one killed by the energy of a poison. The words that follow are all very true. The Bankalas observe the duties enjoined in the Vedas, the Kauravas observe truth. The Matsyas and the Zoroastrians perform sacrifices. The Easterners follow the practices of the Shudras. The Southerners are fallen. The Vahikas are thieves. The Saurashtras are bastards. They that are defiled by ingratitude, theft, drunkenness, adultery with the wives of their preceptors, harshness of speech, slaughter of kine, lustful wanderings during the night out of home, and the wearing of other people's ornaments, what sin is there that they do not incur? Fie on the Aratas and the people of the country of the 5 rivers. Commencing with the Pankalas, the Kauravas, the Naimishkas, the Matsyas, all these know what religion is. The old men among the northerners, the Angas, the Magadas, without themselves knowing what virtue is, follow the practices of the pious. Many gods, headed by Agni, dwell in the east. The Pitras dwell in the south, that is presided over by Yama of righteous deeds. The west is protected by the mighty Varuna, who overlooks the other gods there. The north is protected by the divine Soma along with the Brahmanas. So Rakshasas and Bishaka protect the Himavat, the best of mountains. The Gaikas, O great king, protect the mountains of Gandhamadana. Without doubt, Vishnu, otherwise called Janardana, protects all creatures. For all that the Vahikas have no especial protectors among the gods. The Magadas are comprehenders of signs, the Kaushalas comprehend from what they see, the Kuras and the Bankalas comprehend from a half-uttered speech, the Salwas cannot comprehend till the whole speech is uttered. The mountaineers, like the Sivis, are very stupid. The Yavanas, O king, are omniscient, the Zuras are particularly so. The Mlechas are wedded to the creations of their own fancy. Other peoples cannot understand. The Vahikas resent beneficial counsels. As regards the Madrakas, there are none amongst those mentioned above. Thou, O Sholya, art so. Thou shouldst not reply to me. The Madrakas are regarded on earth as the dirt of every nation. So the Madra woman is called the dirt of the whole female sex. They that have for their practices the drinking of spirits, the violation of the beds of their preceptors, the destruction of the embryo by procuring miscarriage, and the robbing of other people's wealth, there is no sin that they have not. Fie on the Aratas and the people of the country of the 5 rivers. Knowing this, be silent. Do not seek to oppose me. Do not let me slay Keshava and Arjuna, having slain thee first. Sholya said, the abandonment of the afflicted and the sale of wives and children are, O Kana, prevalent amongst the angers whose king thou art. Recollecting those faults of thine that Bhishma recited on the occasion of the tale of Rathas and Atiratas, drive away thy wrath. Do not be angry. Brahmanas may be found everywhere, Kshatriyas may be found everywhere, so also Vaishyas and Shudras, O Gana, women of chastity and excellent vows may also be found everywhere. Everywhere men take delight in jesting with men and wounding one another. Lustful men also may be found everywhere. Everyone on every occasion can command skill in speaking of the faults of others. No one, however, knows his own faults, or knowing them, feels shame. Everywhere are kings devoted to their respective religions, and employed in chastising the wicked. Everywhere may be found virtuous men. It cannot be, O Gana, that all the people of a country are sinful. There are men in many countries that surpass the very gods by their behavior. Sanjaya continued, then King Duryodhana stopped Karna and Shalya from going on with their wordy warfare, addressing the son of Radha as a friend, and beseeching Shalya with joined hands. Karna, O sire, was quieted by thy son and forbore saying anything more. Shalya also then faced the enemy. Then Radha's son, smiling, once more urged Shalya, saying, proceed. 46. Sanjaya said, beholding then that unrivaled array of the pathas made by Drishtadyumna which was capable of resisting all hostile armies, Karna proceeded, uttering leonine shouts and causing his car to produce a loud rattle. And he made the earth to tremble with a loud din of musical instruments. And that chastiser of foes, that hero in battle, seemed to tremble in rage. Duly disposing his own troops in counter-array, O bull of Bharata's race, that hero of great energy made a great slaughter of the Pandava forces like Maghavat slaughtering the Asura host. Striking Yudhishthira then with many arrows, he placed the eldest son of Pandu to his right. Dhritarashtra said, how, O Sanjaya, did the son of Radha dispose his forces in counter-array to all the Pandavas headed by Drishtadyumna and protected by Bhimasena, viz., all those great bowmen invincible by the very gods? Who, O Sanjaya, stood in the wings and the further wings of our army? Dividing themselves properly, how were the warriors stationed? How also did the sons of Pandu dispose their army in counter-array to mine? How also did that great and awful battle commence? Where was Vatsa when Karna proceeded against Yudhishthira? Who could succeed in sailing Yudhishthira in the presence of Arjuna? That Arjuna who had vanquished, single-handed in former days, all creatures at Kandava. Who else that is desirous of life, save the son of Radha, would fight with him? Sanjaya said, hear now of the formation of the arrays, the manner in which Arjuna came and how the battle was fought by both sides surrounding their respective kings. Sharadvata's son Kripa, O king, and the Magadhas endued with great activity, and Kritavarma of Satvata race, took up their position in the right wing. Shakuni, and the mighty Ka warrior Aluka, standing on the right of these, and accompanied by many fearless Gandhara horsemen armed with bright lances, and many mountaineers difficult to defeat, numerous as flights of locusts, and grim-looking as Bishaka, protected the Kaurava army. 34,000 and returning cars of the Samsaptakas, mad with desire of battle, with thy sons in their midst, and all desirous of slaying Krishna and Arjuna, protected the left side of the Kaurava army. On their left, the Kambojas, the Sakas, and the Yavanas, with cars and horse and foot, at the command of the Suta's son, stood, challenging Arjuna and the mighty Keshava. In the centre, at the head of that host, stood Karna, clad in armour with beautiful coat of mail and adorned with angadas and garlands, for protecting that point. Supported by his own angry sons, that foremost of all wielders of weapons, that hero, shone resplendent at the head of the army as he drew his bow repeatedly. The mighty armed Dushasana, possessed of the effulgence of the sun or fire, with tawny eyes and handsome features, riding on the neck of a huge elephant, surrounded by many troops, and stationed at the rear of the army, gradually approached for fight. Behind him came Duryodhana himself, O monarch, protected by his uterine brothers, riding on beautiful steeds and cased in beautiful mail. Protected by the united Madrakas and the Kikayas of exceeding energy, the king, O monarch, looked resplendent like Indra of 100 sacrifices when surrounded by the celestials. Ashvatthama and the other foremost of mighty car warriors, and many ever infuriate elephants shedding temporal secretions like the very clouds and ridden by brave Malechas, followed behind that car force. Decked with triumphal standards and blazing weapons, those huge creatures, ridden by warriors skilled in fighting from their backs, looked beautiful like hills overgrown with trees. Many thousands of brave and unreturning warriors, armed with axes and swords, became the footguards of those elephants. Gorgeously decked with horsemen and car warriors and elephants, that foremost of arrays looked exceedingly beautiful like the array of the Celestials or of the Asuras. That great array, formed according to the scheme of Brihaspati by its commander, well versed in ways of battle, seemed to dance, as it advanced, and struck terror into the hearts of foes. Like ever-appearing clouds in the season of rains, foot soldiers and horsemen and car warriors and elephants, longing for battle, began to issue from the wings and further wings of that array. Then King Yudhishthira, beholding Karna at the head of the hostile army, addressed Dhananjaya, that slayer of foes, that one hero in the world, and said these words, Behold, O Arjuna, the mighty array formed by Karna in battle. The hostile force looks resplendent with its wings and further wings. At sight of this vast hostile force, let such measures be adopted that it may not vanquish us. Thus addressed by the king, Arjuna replied with joined hands, Everything will be done as thou sayest. Nothing will be otherwise. I will, O Bharata, do that by which the destruction of the enemy may be compassed. By slaying their foremost of warriors, I will achieve their destruction. Yudhishthira said, With that view, do thou proceed against the son of Radha, and let Bhimasena proceed against Sayodhana, Nakula against Vrishasena, Sahadeva against the son of Sabala, Satnaku against Dushasana, that bull amongst the Sunnis, viz. Satyaki, against the son of Hridika, and Pandya against the son of Drona. I myself will fight with Kripa. Let the sons of Draupadi with Shikhandi amongst them proceed against the rest of the Dhritarashtras. Let the other warriors of our army encounter our other foes. Sanjaya continued, thus addressed by Yudhishthira the just, Dhananjaya saying, So be it, ordered his troops to do the needful, and himself proceeded to the head of the army. That car for which the leader of the universe, viz. Agni, who derives his effulgence from Brahman, became the steeds, that car which was known amongst the gods as belonging to Brahman because it sprang first from Brahman himself, that car which in days of old had successively borne Brahman and Ishana and Indra and Varuna one after another, riding on that primeval car, Keshava and Arjuna now proceeded to battle. Beholding that advancing car of wonderful aspect, Shaulya once more said unto Adhirata's son, that warrior of great energy in battle, these words, Yonder comes that car having white steeds yoked unto it, and owning Krishna for its driver, that vehicle incapable of being resisted by all the troops, like the inevitable fruit of work. There comes the son of Kunti, slaughtering his foes along the way, he, that is, about whom thou hadst been inquiring. Since tremendous is the uproar that is being heard, deep as the roar of the clouds, it is, without doubt, those high-souled ones, viz. Vasudeva and Ananjaya. Yonder ascends a cloud of dust that overspreads the welkin like a canopy. The whole earth, O Gunner, seems to tremble, cut deep by the circumference of Arjuna's wheels. These violent twins are blowing on both sides of thy army. These carnivorous creatures are yelling aloud, and these animals are uttering fearful cries. Behold, O Gunner, the terrible and portentous Ketu of vapory form, making the hair to stand on end, hath appeared, covering the Sunday. Behold, diverse kinds of animals, all around in large packs, and many mighty wolves and tigers are looking at the Sunday. Behold those terrible cankers and those vultures, assembled together in thousands, sitting with faces towards one another, in seeming discourse. Those coloured yak tails attached to thy great car are waving unquietly. Thy standard also is trembling. Behold these thy beautiful steeds, of huge limbs and great speed resembling that of soaring birds, are also quivering. From these portents, it is certain that kings, in hundreds and thousands, O Gunner, deprived of life, will lie down on the ground for eternal sleep. The loud uproar of gunks, making the hair to stand on end, is being heard. The sound also of drums and cymbals, O son of Radha, is being heard on all sides, as also the whiz of diverse kinds of arrows, and the din made by cars and steeds and men. Listen also, O Gunner, to the loud twang produced by the bowstrings of high-souled warriors. Behold, O Gunner, those banners of Arjuna, that are equipped with rows of bells, and decked with golden moons and stars, made by skilful artists out of cloths embroidered with gold and of diverse hues. They are blazing with resplendence on Arjuna's car as they are shaken by the wind, like flashes of lightning in a mass of clouds. Behold those other banners producing sharp sounds as they wave in the air. Those car warriors of the high-souled Pankalas, with flag-decked standards on their vehicles, are looking resplendent, O Gunner, like the very gods on their celestial cars. Behold the heroic son of Kunti, the unvanquished Vatsu, Arjuna, with that foremost of apes on his standard, advancing for the destruction of the foe. There, on the top of Partha's standard, is to be seen that terrible ape, that enhancer of the fears of foes, attracting the gaze of warriors from every side. The discus, the mace, the bow called Saranga, and the conch, called Panchajanya, of the intelligent Krishna, as also his gem Kaustuba, look exceedingly beautiful in him. The wielder of Saranga and the mace, viz. Vasudeva, of great energy, cometh, urging those white steeds endued with the fleetness of the wind. Yonder twangs Gandiva, drawn by Savyas Asi. Those whetted shafts, sped by that strong-armed hero, are destroying his enemies. The earth is strewn with the heads of unretreating kings, with faces beautiful as the moon at full, and decked with large and expansive eyes of coppery hue. They're the arms, looking like spiked maces, with weapons in grasp, and smeared with excellent perfumes, of warriors delighting in battle and contending with uplifted weapons, are falling. Steeds with eyes, tongues, and entrails drawn out along with their riders, are falling and fallen and deprived of life lie prostrate on the earth. Those lifeless elephants huge as mountain summits, torn, mangled, and pierced by Partha, are falling down like veritable hills. Those cars, looking like the changeful forms of vapour in the sky, with their royal riders slain, are falling down like the celestial cars of the denizens of heaven upon the exhaustion of the latter's merits. Behold, the army is exceedingly agitated by the diadem-decked Arjuna, like herds of countless cattle by a maned lion. Though the Pandava heroes, advancing for the attack, are slaying kings and large numbers of elephants and steeds and car warriors and foot soldiers of thy army engaged in battle. The Partha, shrouded by friends and foes and weapons and dust, is not to be seen like the sun shrouded by clouds. Only the top of his standard may be seen, and the twang of his bowstring may be heard. Thou art sure, O Gunner, to behold today that hero of white steed with Krishna for his driver, engaged in slaughtering his foes in battle. Thou art sure of beholding him about whom thou hadst been inquiring. Today, O Kana, thou art sure to behold those two tigers among men, both of red eyes, both chastisers of foes, viz., Vasudeva and Arjuna, stationed on the same car. If, O son of Radha, thou succeedest in slaying him that hath Keshava for his driver and Gandiva for his bow, then thou shalt be a king. Challenged by the Samsaptakas, Path now proceedeth against them. That mighty warrior is engaged in making a great slaughter of his foes in battle. And to the ruler of the Madras, who was saying so, Kana, in rage, said, Behold, Patha is assailed on all sides by the angry Samsaptakas. Like the sun shrouded by the clouds, Patha is no longer visible. Plunged into that ocean of warriors, O Shaulya, Arjuna is sure to perish. Shaulya said, Who is there that would slay Varuna with water, or quench fire with fuel? Who is there that would seize the wind, or drink off the ocean? I regard thy act of afflicting Partha to be even such. Arjuna is incapable of being vanquished in battle by the very gods and the Asuras united together and having Indra himself at their head. Or, suffer thyself to be gratified, and be of easy mind, having said those words, about thy capacity to slay Partha. Partha cannot be conquered in battle. Accomplish some other purpose thou mayst have in thy mind. He that would uplift this earth on his two arms, or burn all creatures in wrath, or hurl the gods from heaven, may vanquish Arjuna in battle. Behold that other heroic son of Kunti, viz., Bhima, who is never fatigued with exertion, blazing with resplendence, mighty armed, and standing like an Adamaru. With wrath ever kindled and longing for revenge, Bhima of great energy stands the desirous of victory in battle, and remembering all his injuries. They're that foremost of virtuous men, viz., King Yudhishthira the just, that subjugator of hostile towns, stands difficult of being resisted by foes in battle. To stand those two tigers among men, the twin Ashvinis, the two uterine brothers Nakula and Sahadeva, both invincible in battle. Yonder may be seen the 5 sons of Krishna, that have the features of Bankala princes. All of them, equal to Arjuna in battle, are standing, desirous of fight. They're the sons of Drupada, headed by Drystadima, swelling with pride and energy, heroes endued with great energy, have taken up their stand. There, that foremost one among the Satwatas, viz., Satyaki, irresistible like Indra, advanceth against us, from desire of fight, like the destroyer himself in wrath before our eyes. While those two lions among men were thus addressing each other, the two armies mingled fiercely in battle, like a current of the Ganga and Yamuna. 47. Dhritarashtra said, when the two armies, duly arrayed, thus mingled with each other for battle, O Sanjaya, how did Partha assail the Samsaptakas, and how Karna assailed the Pandavas? Tell me the incidents of the battle in detail, for thou art skilled in narration. Listening to the accounts of the prowess of heroes in battle, I am never satiated. Sanjaya said, observing the vast hostile force stationed in that manner, Arjuna arrayed his troops in proper form, in consequence of the evil policy of thy son. The vast Pandava force then, teeming with horsemen and elephants and foot soldiers and cars, and headed by Drishthadima, looked exceedingly magnificent. With his steeds white as pigeons, the son of Prashata, equal in splendor to the sun or the moon, armed with bow, looked resplendent like death himself in embodied form. The sons of Draupadi, desirous of battle, stood by the side of the son of Prashata. They were clad in excellent coats of mail, and armed with excellent weapons, and all of them were endued with the prowess of tigers. Possessed of effulgent bodies, they followed their maternal uncle like the stars appearing with the moon. Beholding the Samsaptakas standing in array, Arjuna, with wrath excited, rushed against them, drawing his bow Gandhiva. The Samsaptakas then, desirous of slaying Arjuna, rushed against Partha, firmly resolved on victory, and making death their goal. That brave host of heroes, teeming with men, steeds, infuriate elephants, and cars, began very quickly to afflict Arjuna. Their encounter with Iritan, Arjuna, became exceedingly furious. That encounter resembled the one that took place between Arjuna and the Nivatakavashas, as we have heard. Partha cut off cars and steeds and standards and elephants and foot soldiers engaged in fight, with shafts and bows and swords and discs and battle axes, and uplifted arms with weapons in grasp, and the heads also of foes, by thousands upon thousands. The Samsaptakas, regarding the car of Partha sunk in that deep vortex of warriors, uttered loud roars. Partha, however, slaying all his foes in front, slew those that stood further off, and then those that were on his right and his back, like Rudra himself in rage, slaughtering all created things endued with life. The encounter that took place when the Panchalas, the Siddhas, and the Saranjayas faced thy troops was exceedingly fierce. Kripa and Gritavama, and Shakuni the son of Sabala, those heroes difficult of defeat in battle, accompanied by troops that were all cheerful, themselves filled with rage, and capable of smiting down thick ranks of cars, fought with the Koshalas, the Kasis, the Matsyas, the Karusas, the Kayakayas, and the Surasnas, all of whom were possessed of great courage. That battle, fraught with great slaughter and destructive of body, life and sins, became conducive to fame, heaven, and virtue, in respect of the Kshatriya, the Vishya, and the Shudra heroes that were engaged in it. Meanwhile the Kuru king Duryodhana with his brothers, O bull of Bharata's race, and supported by many Kuru heroes and many mighty Madrakaka warriors, protected Karna while the latter was engaged in battle with the Pandavas, the Panchalas, the Siddhas, and Satyaki, destroying that vast division with his sharp arrows, and crushing many foremost of Ka warriors. Karna succeeded in afflicting Yudhishthira, cutting off the armor, the weapons, and the bodies of thousands of foes, and slaying his foes by thousands, and sending them to heaven and making them earn great fame. Karna caused his friends great joy. Thus, O sire, that battle destructive of men, steeds, and cars, between the Kurus and the Srinjayas, resembled the battle between the gods and the Asuras of old. 48. Dhritarashtra said, Tell me, O Sanjaya, how Karna, having caused a great slaughter, penetrated into the midst of the Pandava troops, and struck and afflicted King Yudhishthira. Who were those foremost of heroes among the Pathas that resisted Karna? Who were they whom Karna crushed before he could succeed in afflicting Yudhishthira? Sanjaya said, beholding the Pathas headed by Drishthadama stationed for battle, that crusher of foes, viz. Karna, rushed impetuously against the Panchalas. Like swans rushing towards the sea, the Panchalas, longing for victory, rushed as quickly against that high-souled warrior advancing to the encounter. Then the blare of thousands of ganchs, as if piercing the heart by its shrillness, arose from both hosts, and the fierce peal also of thousands of drums. The sound also of diverse musical instruments, and the noise made by elephants and steeds and cars, and the leonine shouts of heroes that rose there, became exceedingly awful. It seemed that the whole earth, with her mountains and trees and oceans, the entire welkin covered with wind-tossed clouds, and the whole firmament with the sun, the moon, and the stars, trembled with that sound. All creatures regarded that noise to be even such, and became agitated. Those amongst them that were endued with little strength fell dead. Then Karna, excited with great wrath, quickly invoking his weapons, began to smite the Pandava army like Maghavat smiting the army of the Asuras. Penetrating then into the Pandava host and shooting his arrows, Karna slew 74 foremost of warriors among the Prabhadrakas. Then that foremost of Ka warriors, with 25 sharp shafts equipped with goodly wings, slew 25 Pankalas. With many cloth-yard shafts equipped with wings of gold and capable of piercing the bodies of all foes, that hero slew the cities by hundreds and thousands. While he was employed in achieving those superhuman feats in battle, large throngs of Bankalakas, O king, quickly surrounded him on all sides. Aiming then, O Bharata, 5 irresistible shafts, Karna, otherwise called Vaikatana or Vrisha, slew 5 Pankala warriors. The 5 Pankalas, O Bharata, that he slew in that battle were Banudeva and Sitarasana and Sanavindu and Tapana and Zurasana. While the Pankala heroes were thus being slaughtered with arrows in that great battle, loud cries of "Oh" and "Alas" arose from among the Pankala host. Then 10 Ka warriors among the Pankalas, O monarch, surrounded Karna. Them, too, Karna speedily slew with his shafts. The 2 protectors of Karna's car wheels, viz., his 2 invincible sons, O sire, that were named Sushna and Satyasana, began to fight, reckless of their very lives. The eldest son of Karna, viz., the mighty Ka warrior Vrishasana, himself protected his father's rear. Then Drishthadama, Satyaki, and the 5 sons of Draupadi, and Vrikadara, Janamjaya, and Shikhandi, and many foremost warriors among the Prabhadrakas, and many amongst Pasidis, the Kirkayas, and the Pankalas, the twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, and the Matsyas, all clad in mail, rushed fiercely upon Radha's son, skilled in smiting, from desire of slaying him. Pouring upon him diverse kinds of weapons and thick showers of arrows, they began to afflict him like the clouds afflicting the mountain breast in the season of rains. Desirous of rescuing their father, the sons of Karna, all of whom were effectual smiters, and many other heroes, O king, of thy army, resisted those Pandava heroes. Sushna, cutting off with a board-headed arrow the bow of Bhimasena, pierced Bhima himself with 7 cloth-yard shafts in the chest, and uttered a loud roar. Then Vrikadara of terrible prowess, taking up another tough bow and stringing it quickly, cut off Sushna's bow. Excited with rage and as if dancing, on his car, he quickly pierced Sushna himself with 10 arrows, and then pierced Karna, within the twinkling of an eye, with 70 sharp shafts. With 10 other shafts, Bhima then felled Bhanusana, another son of Karna, with his steeds, driver, weapons, and standard, in the very sight of the latter's friends. The sightly head of that youth, graced with a face as beautiful as the moon, cut off with a razor-headed arrow, looked like a lotus plucked from its stalk. Having slain Karna's son, Bhima began to afflict thy troops once more. Cutting off the bows then of Gripa and Hrdika's son, he began to afflict those 2 also. Piercing Dashasana with 3 arrows made wholly of iron, and Shakuni with 6, he deprived both Aluka and his brother Patidri of their cars. Addressing Sushna next in these words, viz., Thou art slain, Bhima took up an arrow. Karna, however, cut off that arrow and struck Bhima himself with 3 shafts. Then Bhima took up another straight arrow of great impetuosity and sped it at Sushna. But Vrisha cut that arrow also. Then Karna, desirous of rescuing his son, and wishing to make an end of the cruel Bhimasena, struck the latter with 73 fierce arrows. Then Sushna, taking up an excellent bow capable of bearing a great strain, pierced Nakula with 5 arrows in the arms and the chest. Nakula, then piercing his antagonist with 20 strong shafts capable of bearing a great strain, uttered a loud roar and inspired Karna with fright. The mighty Ka warrior Sushna, however, O king, piercing Nakula with 10 shafts, quickly cut off the latter's bow with a razor-headed arrow. Then Nakula, insensate with rage, shook up another bow, and resisted Sushna in that battle with 9 shafts. That slayer of hostile heroes, O king, shrouding all the quarters with showers of arrows, slew Sushna's driver, and piercing Sushna himself again with 3 shafts, and then with 3 other broad-headed arrows, cut off his bow of great strength into 3 fragments. Sushna also, deprived of his senses in rage, took up another bow and pierced Nakula with 60 arrows and Sahadeva with 7. The battle raged fiercely, like that of the gods and the Asuras between those heroes striking one another. Satyaki, slaying the driver of Vrishasena with 3 arrows, cut off the latter's bow with a broad-headed shaft and struck his steeds with 7 arrows. Crushing his standard then with another arrow, he struck Vrishasena himself with 3 arrows in the chest. Thus struck, Vrishasena became senseless on his car, but within the twinkling of an eye, stood up again. Deprived of his driver and steeds and car standard by Ayudhana, Satyaki, Vrishasena then, armed with sword and shield, rushed against Ayudhana from desire of slaying him. Satyaki, however, as his antagonist rushed towards him, struck at his sword and shield with 10 arrows equipped with heads like a boar's ear. Then Dushasana, beholding Vrishasena made carless and weaponless, quickly caused him to ascend his own car, and bearing him away from the spot, caused him to ride another vehicle. The mighty car warrior Vrishasena then, riding on another vehicle, pierced the 5 sons of Draupadi with 70 and